I'm gonna lower the audio. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the gameplay as I introduce this person, who I've been a big fan of for quite a while. This person is a pretty famous content creator on YouTube, and what I like the most about this person is their ability to be extremely real and honest with like their critiques on these games and their experience. So I'm gonna go ahead and give him a call here. Hello? I think I can hear you, friend.
Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, they should be able to. I might need to lower your volume just a bit on my end here, but you seem to be good.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries at all. I'll keep it nice and soft and speak.
Oh no, it's Fizhy, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
It's my OBS that I don't have all set up.
Did I give a booming hello and then everyone's like, my ears? We love it. We love it. This is how it goes, you know?
This is, yeah, me and you haven't really had like a face-to-face conversation before, but I have like popped into your stream. How's it going?
No, it's going okay, thank you very much. I'm just sat here, just finished a video going over some of my little concerns that I have for Valhalla. I thought I'd get that out of the way because I wanted to keep it balanced and even. So I got that done and scheduled and all that stuff, and now here I am ready to talk about gaming. And so how's it going on your end?
I'm doing pretty fantastic. I've had quite a few technical difficulties leading up to this.
No, yeah, I saw, but that's okay. You should see some of the technical difficulties I get.
Yeah.
Like, one time, Windows decided to update midstream and shut down my entire PC, and I was like, ah.
Yeah.
I was playing Origins at the time. I was not happy, but it was fine. I figured it out. Here we are talking about Valhalla. There's a lot to talk about.
I've got a document here. So I've got a couple questions for you, friend. All right.
Yeah.
I did some research. First off, can you still put your thumb over the top of your hand?
Let's have a look, shall we? I can just about. I don't do it very much because if I do it too much, I'll wind up damaging the joint.
Oh, yeah, that's not a very good idea. So
yeah, no, but I can do it. Yeah.
So one could say, if people aren't familiar with you, well, first off, if you're not familiar, you should go subscribe because he's very close to 250,000 subscribers, and you could be the one who hits 250. You never know. But
you could be the one.
You could be the one. And there's a special reward at the end of it that you just get to be subscribed to him.
The satisfaction, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, no.
So
we'll get there in good time.
It's safe to say that you've had a different viewpoint on like how well Odyssey was made versus Origins and now into Valhalla. And so I kind of wanted to ask like a general Assassin's Creed question, which is like, what makes an Assassin's Creed game an Assassin's Creed game to you?
Well, okay, so first things first, let's talk about, I want to talk about necessarily the elements, and then we'll talk about the setting. So we'll break it down into two pieces. First of all, when it comes to the elements, they need to be present. It needs to be what was preset in a way. You can gimmick it, you can innovate, you can add more, but social stealth, you've got your hidden blade, you've got, you know, that assassin feel, and then and the assassin story needs to all be present. But when it comes to the historical setting, it needs to be, and I find it functions best in a time of change. That's why the Third Crusade worked so well. That's why the Renaissance worked so well. The Golden Age of piracy, even the American Revolution. These were all historical periods in which change was happening in the background, and the assassin story was in the foreground, and that was altering that and showing how that went, and it gave you that satisfaction of, oh, so that led to this, or that led to, well, say for example, this is a really small thing, but Ezio named coffee or a latte or something like that. And then you have other little more major things where you have the influence, the fall of the Borgia in Brotherhood. You've got in 3 basically Connor winning all the battles for the what they call the Patriots without really necessarily having it be his priority. And so Assassin's Creed really needs to function within a historical period that provides that change. That's the big thing for me. And then on top of that, you need to throw in the overarching sense of mystery that I think the first 4 games did incredibly well, and then 3 did to an extent, and then Black Flag and what was it again? And Rogue, I guess. Black Flag and Rogue did it again pretty decently, and then it sort of like petered out with Unity, Syndicate, and all that stuff, and it came back a little in Origins, and then Odyssey. Odyssey.
Kill all of Sparta, you know? Like
assassinate Sparta.
Yeah, we have to assassinate Sparta. No, I totally agree with you about, like, especially the historic time period, but also, like, the mysteries in the first 4 games. Because, like, honestly, Assassin's Creed 2 was, like, the first video game that, like, kind of pushed me into, like, filmmaking. Because I realized, like, you can have a video game, like, video games are like intricate movies, like, to a degree, and like Assassin's Creed like introduced that to me. And so, like, that is something that I've kind of missed from the recent, like, Assassin's Creed games. But at the same time, I've noticed this side of me where I have 2 fans of Assassin's Creed inside of me. One that does kind of miss, like, the old game styles, but also, like, I also played Diablo, and they've introduced all these combat mechanics where, like, now all of a sudden I feel like I'm being kind of torn a little bit. But to kind of go off of your historic time period, don't you think, like, 8th century England there is quite a bit of change going on in that?
There is quite a bit of change, yeah. There is quite a lot of change, and so it does fit as an Assassin's Creed setting. So that brings me to being quite excited for Valhalla. I do have a few concerns, but they're usually from handling higher up the chain than the setting itself.
Yeah.
And so there's that. So I am excited for Valhalla's setting for sure.
Yeah. So that leads into, like, the second one, which is what makes Valhalla an Assassin's Creed game for you, and what doesn't? From what you've seen and experienced.
Well, from the marketing. Now, the marketing is what a lot of people are going off with Valhalla. Yeah. And I mean, since I attended 2 remote capture sessions. One was 3 hours back in July. One was 6 hours the other week. And so I played 9 hours in total. And in those 9 hours, I didn't necessarily feel like Valhalla had tons and tons of assassin-related stuff going on, but I feel that was intentional. That's why we saw that part as opposed to something else. We know that there are going to be assassins. We've got Barsom, who seems to be donning some Levantine-esque robes. We've got his mate Hytham, who runs the bureau in the settlement. We also know that there's going to be a cult-like system, except it's going to be like about 4 dozen assassinations of members of the Order of Ancients, except you'll have to uncover where they are, you'll have to learn stuff about them, and then you'll kill them and there'll be a White Room confession, and there's that. I feel like there's going to be quite a lot of openness. It's not going to feel like Assassin's Creed it's not going to feel like the old Assassin's Creed games. I don't think so. But I think they're going to try to bring Assassin's Creed to this RPG format in the best way possible. And I'm all for it. I mean, Origins showed us the birth of the Assassins, but it didn't really delve into the social stealth aspects or the actual tenets of the Creed. Now the Creed's been around for centuries in this one. And Odyssey didn't really go into that either because it was set before Origins and it was telling a different story. It just happened to be in the Assassin's Creed universe. Whereas this will have, like, I get the vibe it will have an assassin-oriented story because we know that based on stuff that's been marketed. It just feels like the marketing is downplaying it, trivializing it in a way. And I feel like that's probably due to a conflict of interest between the marketing and the developers, more so than make an epic Viking fantasy. Sure, they all want that Viking fantasy, but I think the people making the game also want the game to be good, you know? They want it to be Assassin's Creed.
And it's not even, like, I don't know, what I experienced wasn't necessarily a Viking fantasy, but more so, like, playing as Eivor. Like, I didn't really feel like... It doesn't feel like, you can customize her, make her hair or his hair look different, or tattoos or whatever. But at the same time, like, the character you're actually playing is, like, a pretty standard structured character. You're not really carving out, well, I'm going to be a Viking who's more peaceful, or I'm going to be a Viking who's more violent. You're playing as Eivor. And
Yeah, you're playing it over for sure.
and like the whole like criticisms on like the marketing thing, I definitely get that, cuz it's pretty obvious that they're trying to target new audiences.
Yes, it's very much so oriented towards a mainstream, which
Yeah.
is another thing, which means I'll cut it some slack there. You know, like they're just going for the mainstream. They want to get new people in, and after a franchise that's been going on for so long, why wouldn't you? I mean, you'd want to bring it as far as you possibly can. Those who know it to be Assassin's Creed will know what to come for, but they don't necessarily need the marketing. It's not necessarily directed at them. But I feel like after Odyssey, especially, there's a little bit of concern in a lacking mention of assassins in any of it, besides from maybe the occasional pop up or mentioning social stealth in a little deep dive trailer for about probably like 15 seconds. There is a little bit of trust that just isn't there, because it seems to after Odyssey, it just seems to be a bit confusing. What is the direction of Assassin's Creed now? Nobody knows. Well, obviously the developers know, but the consumers, we're still figuring that out. And so the marketing, in a way, is not really taking into account, I think, the different types of players, the old fans and the new players that they want. So I feel like that's creating this confusion, this concern, and I think rightfully so. But to put people's minds at rest, I think that Valhalla will have plenty to offer for Assassin's Creed as Assassin's Creed. So
I think it's like it's definitely evolving, I think, in a better direction, because they obviously made a decision when they went and created Origins that they were going to reformat the entire combat system, which I think Valhalla has shown that like it is an improvement from past combat systems where you just kind of pressed a button, killed a couple guys, moved along. And like I felt like in Brotherhood and things, those games were amazingly wonderful, but they also felt pretty linear, like easy and linear, and you were kind of left to following the story. When the story's really good, that's really awesome. But when it's not, like per se in Odyssey, like it gets a little like, where do I go from here? But what I like about Valhalla is like the fact that there is all these different stories throughout the open world, and you can go experience them in your own time or whenever you want. Or you have these confession kill rooms that we miss, but not everyone's going to go and kill the same person or assassinate the same enemy at the same time in the story. And so
there's a lot more openness for sure.
Which I think could be like a pretty fun experience so far.
I like this. This is probably my favorite thing about what I played of Valhalla is a lot of the open world content. The game won't guide you towards it. It won't tell you it's there. You get close and there's a little dot which grants you the leave to explore it without running around like a headless chicken for a bit. So it does sort of guide. But once you're there, once you've found the thing, which you could just easily miss because they're little dots that aren't too noticeable, which is quite subtle, and I like it. I think it's pretty neat. It's not as obnoxious as a quest marker or a question mark or anything like that. And so when you get to it, you don't know what it could be. Could it be a mystery? Could it be a puzzle? Could it be a boss fight? You never know until you're there. And then if you decide it's not for you, you can leave it and it'll just stay there. You won't have like a quest log being clogged up by things telling you exactly what to do. Instead, you'll just have little dots on the map. Telling you that there's something there that you haven't necessarily done, but it doesn't really force it in your face in a way that makes you cave and decide, you know what, I'm just gonna do it for the sake of getting rid of it, which is something that I think Odyssey struggled with, and Origins certainly did as well. Which is where you get piled on with all these quests, and a lot of them, I'm gonna be very honest, just weren't they didn't have any substance. It was go here, fetch this, or sometimes it was, the camps in Odyssey, the camps where you go in, there's a checklist of stuff to do, and that's just side content you can find in the open world. But a lot of quests, and I know you're aware of this as well, would just be telling you to do that same thing that you would do in the open world anyway. And so it makes you think, what right does this have to be a side quest? Why can't we Why is this being shoved in my face, sort of thing. And when you go and you explore in Valhalla, you're going to these places, you get there, you find out what it is. If it's some form of side story, like a world event, I think they're called, or a mystery, it doesn't necessarily tell you what you need to do. It just, leaves it up to you to figure out. So I can give a couple of examples. There was a little underground brawling place in the demo I played recently, the BBB. And he said at the start, in order to get in, you need to find the password, which is like a long passcode sort of thing. So you have to then look about, and you'll find it just behind the place, in like a tree. And I think that's really neat. I think that's really well done. How it just said it's just there. It doesn't tell you where it is. It doesn't tell you that you need to find it. It's just there to find. I think it is suggested towards, but it's suggested towards by the character, and there's no like on-screen guidance to it. It's just figure it out, use your brain, use all the tools at your disposal, and go with it. And then it does this thing again and again and again. There's another example as well. There's a little girl who's waiting for her father to come home. There's one leaf on a tree, and she says that if this leaf falls, her father clearly is not coming back. And so you can choose, I think, to do a few things. One of the things you can do is shoot the leaf off the tree and tell the child her father's not coming home and that she needs to get on with her life. I think it's a little bit cruel, considering that's a child and you're just telling her, yep, you need to move on with your life. Your father's gone. You're on your own now. Look out for yourself. Not even going to come back to the settlement. I think it's a little bit silly there, but you get my point. You have this agency of interaction where you don't know what you need to do, but the whole point is you need to figure it out. You need to use your brain and find out what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so
what I loved about some of the things you came across in your gameplay was like the viper eggs too. It was like the
that was something.
the crackhead down in the dungeons who
absolute crackhead. Yeah. No, I love a bit of goof. I think the fact that it's not like in a quest gives you that openness to, oh, you know what, this is just silly for the sake of being silly, but it doesn't really hurt anyone because there's nothing that said I needed to do it. There's nothing that was shoved in my face to say, do this. It just says, find some viper eggs, and if you leave, it'll never mention it again. You'll just have that little marker there on the map if you to mark that it exists. And I think that was really quite amusing. And so you collect the viper eggs, you collect a few. They're all in the area. You don't have to go miles and miles and then come back. You can find enough vipers in the immediate vicinity, usually on the riverbanks or in that very like sewage, like in that very sewer system or whatever. And you can bring the eggs back, and eventually, after she's had all the eggs she wants, she'll eat them and fart, and then she'll stink out an entire portion of a city. And you might think, is that a bit too silly? But I think no, because that's just a prankster. Pranksters have existed for probably longer than spoken language. People playing pranks on one another. So I think, you know what, that works as a little prank. But I do understand when people look at that and go, maybe there's a little bit of goof to this, and I have a gauge point for what is too much goof, what's too much silly in Assassin's Creed. And do you remember that quest for Odyssey called One Really, Really Bad Day?
Yes. Describe it again, because the title sounds incredibly familiar.
It's the quest where you meet a guy who says, help us fight some pirates, go out and stop the pirates. You go out, sink a ship, come back, it's like, that's our reinforcements. Did you not hear me screaming? The obvious answer is no, millions of miles away. And then he goes, right, okay, we need to prepare the town. So you have 3 quests. One, you go to a blacksmith who's blind. Yes, that is the one with the chicken at the end. You know what I mean. You've got the blacksmith who falls over and all his tools fall on him, and then he dies. And then Alexios or Cassandra talk to a dog and go, I've seen plenty of stuff in my life, but that was brutal. And then you have the horse, where you go to a location which is just named Salty Bandits. And then you ride the horse back to this lady, and she feeds it a fruit and rides it off a cliff, and they die. And then you have a guy who thinks he's Ajax or something, and he runs around saying, this helmet makes me fireproof, prove it. So you set him on fire, and lo and behold, he burns to death. And then you have the chicken. Yep.
It's totally right.
Fake
I'm down with the goose, but what I like the most is, like, do you remember any experience? Like, obviously, my channel grew from Odyssey, so I really like the game. But can you remember a moment in the world, like in Athens or something, where you just had like a little thing like an experience like that with some random NPC walking around, and you all of a sudden were out just doing something for someone just for the sake of figuring out what's at the end of it. Like, I don't remember any experience like that in Odyssey. Like, everything,
I don't
like you
think so,
mentioned,
no.
was pretty like checklisty. Like, here's the next thing to do, next thing to do, and it didn't kind of help that much. I think in Odyssey, where the landscape felt very similar across the entire map, while like in Valhalla, just like moving from one region to another, like I feel like the environment and like the immersion, at least like the nature, looks like extremely better, and I felt way more connected to it.
Yeah, there's a connection to the world in Valhalla that I struggle to find myself in Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
No, I looked at Odyssey, and I think Odyssey is a really easy game to see through when you're looking at it, because there are a few things that Odyssey does that I think make it pretty flat feeling. One of them is, of course, the quests are pretty checklisty, and often they'll have you do things that you'd wind up doing in the open world anyway if you could be bothered. Another thing is the amount of time you'll spend in combat. A lot of enemies can be quite spongy at times. Not all the time. Some of that is down to builds and that, but I feel like some bosses, for example, especially, you could be there for a solid half an hour chipping away at this guy, and there's a huge tedium in all of that. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, on top of that, you have the zero fall damage perk, which I think is actually making a return in Valhalla, much to my behest. But that for zero fall damage perk essentially means you could run in a straight line from A to B all the time and just jump off cliffs and climb up things, and you would never have to deviate your route
Yeah.
because you don't take full damage. And so before long, everything starts to blur, and you just look, and instead of watching what's going on in the game, you're just seeing through it straight to the fact that it's a game behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Valhalla, I think, does a better job of giving you that lesson in expectations. So when you're doing world events, you don't know where it's going to go. There's no checklist. You don't know what it wants you to do, and often it's a little story, and there's some quality to it for sure. I feel like that's much better. It creates a more intimate connection with the world, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it. I think it's certainly a step up from Odyssey, and it's a step up from Origins in how side content is handled by a mile.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll give like a critique to Valhalla about is in the RPG system or the skill tree is like now they've added the accessibility, where all
Yeah.
assassinations are instant assassinations, while like a third of the skill tree is kind of focused on like assassin damage, and like
Yeah.
I feel like one thing about like way you can kind of keep the RPG aspect is like kind of expanding on like, especially with someone like Eivor, who's very similar to like Edward in the sense that they're like learning to become an assassin or something. They don't quite have all the stealthy aspects yet. Is like if they spent a little bit of time like in an RPG expanding your assassination abilities or your stealth or your ability to kind of learn how to be a better assassin. And I don't really, I feel like it's either like you're either just a brutal warrior or you're just stacking assassin damage and pressing the assassination button. So I feel like
Yeah.
maybe there's some other things that because again, I only had like the 6 hours to play, that we haven't fully experienced the entire social stealth abilities or things like
We
that.
almost certainly haven't. Yeah.
And
Um,
so,
it's a bit of a difficult one with the assassin. The option to turn it to be instant kill with the hidden blade is purely there for accessibility of old players who that's what they kind of want from Assassin's Creed. They don't understand why stabbing someone in the neck wouldn't kill you pretty quickly, because the reality is it would.
yeah.
So is that, but it won't take away from what I understand the entire skill tree that it just made redundant. Maybe it
Hmm.
will. Maybe it'll take away the skill tree. Maybe it just won't be there in that setting.
Well,
But if
if
it is,
you
it's just
have
it's just a
that,
waste of points.
yeah, if you have that setting on, like at that point, assassin damage doesn't mean anything, and a lot of those nodes give you more assassin damage, which I find interesting because we have like the skill shot assassination, which I think is actually kind of a cool way a cool spin on like instant assassinations, which is as you get better or as your skill progresses as an assassin, it becomes
Yeah.
easier to do a one-hit assassination versus like kind of botching it or being noticed.
Yeah.
Um,
I think they could. I think they could. I think they could improve that in a couple of ways. First things first, they could reward you with the animation. So the assassinations are a bit messy, a bit sloppy, and a bit slow to begin with.
mhm,
And so when you improve and you improve the skill, maybe those animations could become faster. Maybe they could become more efficient, or maybe even just cooler looking as you get more used to it. But that'll be one way to replace, the assassin damage system with a system that feels rewarding to that kind of player. Whereas
mhm,
I don't feel like leaving it at that and then having a skill tree that's completely redundant is going to be that rewarding in itself. So it's something to watch for sure.
mhm,
But I think I understand why it exists. I understand why people want it to exist. I also understand why people look at it and go, "This is just a little bit of a plaster on something. This is just this is. I don't see how this could function in this skill tree and still make it feel like the skill tree is effective and
mhm,
keep that constant feeling of progressing of achieving something that the skill tree in Valhalla does, because you unlock a lot of points quite easily, but the skill tree is massive. It's gigantic.
mhm,
It goes all over the place, and you don't know how big it is until you've looked at it, until you found everything. And
mhm,
so I I I wonder if they can find a way to compromise it a little bit better, because it just seems like the settings there for the convenience and the ease of use, and then you can turn it off if you want to have a third of the remaining third of your skill trees be actually useful.
yeah,
And that's a bit of a difficult position to put yourself in with the game. It's almost like they've realized that the compromise between Assassin's Creed and RPG is it isn't necessarily the best thing that they've done. It's like they're trying to bring it back for some, but make it an RPG for others. And I just don't know. I don't know what value trying to appeal to both will ever have. Because when you try to please everyone, you wind up pleasing no one. That's the general rule of don't try to please everyone.
yeah,
Which is why it's important to remember your audience and remember the audience that you want to build. And
mhm,
when you make a game that appeals to the mainstream, that is going to get very lost. That's the problem that I think Valhalla has at the moment.
yeah. And the fact that games are, I don't want to like, they're just difficult to make. There's a lot of people working on this, and I
Yeah,
bet you
the,
there's
the hard
a,
work,
a
and
lot
they
of
absolutely want
different,
the best.
yeah, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of things they probably wanted to
yeah. There's a
put
lot
in
that
the
they wanted
game
to
that they
do.
have to like cut out because Ubisoft does put them on a pretty short turnaround cycle.
Now
Like,
that is pretty tight. I understand it. When I direct a lot of my critique for Assassin's Creed, I want the developers to know first and foremost that I respect and appreciate all the work that they're doing, and they do a stand-up job.
mhm,
And I just feel like there's a little bit of a lack of understanding higher up the chain from Ubisoft that
mhm,
I that causes this divide. This causes this disconnect from Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed, if that makes sense.
yes,
Um, so I
it's more
think
so.
when I direct my critiques, it's more at the company itself. It's these people need time. They need the agency to make the game that they want to make, and they need to be able to target a specific audience rather than the mainstream, and that's
Mhm.
what it is.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a disconnect now where it kind of feels like someone in the higher ups is basically saying like we have this brand Assassin's Creed, um, but people are really interested in Viking games, so let's go make a brutal Viking game and then like let's slap Assassin's Creed. I know that's not how the game is turning out at all. Like it seems like the creative directors and the people in Derby and all of them put a lot of effort into that task, but it definitely feels like there's more so like it's coming from like, which makes sense, like a salesy marketing kind of perspective where it's like we can easily sell like a Viking game, and so like let's figure this out and how can we do that, which can be a little disappointing when if the game doesn't kind of match the expectations of like the fan base of the brand. um,
Yeah,
mhm,
it is a huge. it is a huge game of, you know, who can we afford to lose,
Yeah.
and the answer, and it's just a very difficult position, I
Yeah.
think, for a lot of people working on Assassin's Creed who want the same thing as the fans. Like, they want the same thing. They want Assassin's Creed to be Assassin's Creed for all intents and purposes. They want to drive it forward, not peel it back, which is the exact same thing that everyone else wants. I won't sit here and pretend I want the Ezio trilogy days back. They're done. They're dusted. The franchise needed to move on, and it has. But
Yeah.
it's still got a bit of moving to go. And I feel like Valhalla won't be the game where you feel like, oh yeah, this is Assassin's Creed. This is what it is at its core. This is a game that will be satisfying, I think, for Assassin's Creed. It'll be okay, and I think it'll be a really good RPG. But I think what they do to bring Assassin's Creed fully to the next generation is really going to be that breakpoint for Ubisoft, where it's like, well, are we going to make Assassin's Creed, or are we going to make a period fantasy? Which one are we going to go for? And and can we afford to be indecisive anymore? And shall we grant the developers the time that they need to make the game the best it can possibly be? And if we can, why don't we? Because in the long run, that'll be better for the brand. It'll be better for the developers who want to make this kind of game, for sure, and it'll be better for the fans who want this kind of game to be made. And then more people will come in based on the fact that it's finding a niche. If you don't find that niche, the mainstream may gobble it up, but you'll never make a game that you'll never be there with that 10 out of 10 from any reviewers or anything like that, because you need to find the niche. The niche is important. And so I think it's a bit of a difficult one, but it can be done. There's still hope for it.
I definitely think it's evolving. Like, I would say after playing Origins, Odyssey, and now Valhalla for a little bit, that Valhalla took, like, I think the best parts of both those games. And
it did, yeah. There's a lot to like in. One of my favorite things is it's dialed back the bird mechanic. So the Raven in Valhalla, you don't in Origins and Odyssey, you'd find yourself being forced to using it all the time, every single quest. In Valhalla, it's there as a tool that you can use, but I don't think there's ever been a moment where it's told me, "Hey, use the bird." It's just been, "Oh, maybe the bird will be useful here. Let's give it a go."
There is an icon on certain quests that have like a raven icon, and that's like its suggestion is to like use the raven in that moment. But you're right, because in Odyssey you could just get Icaros and just tag all the enemies and then use rush assassination and just clear out a camp in like 10 seconds. While this time Sunan doesn't tag anybody. If anything, you have to use Odin's Sight if you want to tag anyone, and it's only for temporary, which I honestly really like. It kind of forces away that the fact in Odyssey where it felt very checklisty, where like I kill bad guy, kill bad guy, kill bad guy, loot, move, kill bad guy, kill bad guy, loot, move.
No, and also then you've got Odin's Sight, of course, which is more like the Eagle Pulse from Unity in a way, where you'd use it would pulse out and you'd see everything that you need to see, and then it will stop. As opposed to like traditional Eagle Vision, which is an acceptable compromise, and I quite like Eagle Pulse from Unity. It's quite useful, as opposed to the Animus Pulse from Origins and Odyssey, which would just highlight what you can loot, really. And so there's a little bit more. It feels more Assassin's Creed in that as well. I'm pretty sure Assassin's Creed is what made like Eagle Vision popular in games, didn't it? Like it went, well, okay, we've got this like combination of senses that makes you able to see exactly everything that's going on, and then other games took it and went, "Oh, we could do that," you know. And so you see loads of games doing it now. I don't know, maybe there was a game that did it before. I'm not entirely clued up on the thing, but I know the game most iconic for that sort of system is Assassin's Creed. So it's good to see that back in a form that, you know, it feels right for it. Feels like it's useful. Feels like it has a purpose. And isn't just some Animus Pulse and a bird that flies about and that tags all your enemies so you can kill them and loot them, but has loads of different variations and stuff like that. And I'm quite happy about that one. So there's definitely a bit more. There's definitely a bit more accountability for Assassin's Creed within this game. There's more room for it. There's more room for this being an assassin game as well. On top of that, in city areas, you'll find a lot of places are built more for the parkour to sort of work. in Origins and Odyssey, the parkour existed, but it was never something that I looked at and went, you know what, that was useful. Besides from maybe climbing the tower in Alexandria, and that's it for like 2 games. Beyond that, it doesn't really feel like it had too much overall purpose. Whereas in this, it feels like there could be some purpose for it. And even if there isn't in, say, certain missions, then you have collectibles such as tattoo sheets and so on, which you have to chase in a little parkour piece to get, and then you can see how well it flows. Some tombs also do it as well, where you have to do some parkour bits. And there's a verticality to a lot of restricted areas that you'll find as well, which require you to climb about. And if you want to use stealth, then you could use that to your advantage. And so there's a little bit more openness to the idea of being an assassin in this game.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's a lot of refine in the engine itself. Now, I feel like this generation of the engine, it's the Anvil engine, right? This variation of the Anvil engine is starting to outstay its welcome. It felt that way a little bit in Odyssey. It's like, well, we've seen this in Origins, and now it's just the same gameplay again, but just feels a little bit nerfed. And then add in power fantasy elements, and you've got Odyssey. But whereas with this, it feels like they've refined it quite a fair bit, even if it's not necessarily ideal in the sense that it still plays relatively similar. It just feels like there's refine. For example, having to toggle sprint and then having stamina, having combat be stamina based, so you don't roll about the place like a lunatic. Having the stamina determine whether or not you can use power attacks. Your health not randomly regenerating. You have to find something to regenerate your health properly. I mean, it doesn't really regenerate in Origins and Odyssey, but you can just sort of sit there and use an ability or regenerate health slowly by not taking damage for a certain amount of time, I think, in Origins. And I feel like it's better now that you have to find consumables, basically rations, and use that and consume that to relieve your health. I don't see how it reminds me a bit of The Witcher in the sense that you could just sit there scranning dumplings while fighting a monster. And I sort of found that really funny. It was one of the things where I sat there and went, you know what? I'm just imagining that Geralt actually sat here scranning dumplings while killing this wraith or something. But it just reminds me of a system that functions. There's a functionality, and it feels like it accounts more for the game. And it just feels like there's a bit more. There just feels like there's more verticality to the entire thing. Yeah. There's more dimension. It feels 3-dimensional. It doesn't feel flat. It doesn't feel uninspired. It doesn't feel simplified. But I would be lying if I said if the next game was still in this engine, I wouldn't be really unhappy.
Yeah, I totally get it. Like, especially, did you get a chance to do any fishing at all? Because like that's
I did.
How would you compare that to Red Dead?
It's pretty similar. I think Red Dead adds a bit more risk to it in the sense that you could lose the fish easier. And I feel like Red Dead is meant to have that hyper realism to a lot of things that you can do in it. So it's meant to feel more like that. I don't think Assassin's Creed is trying to go for the same thing. You can just fish. You can get fish. You can sell the fish on to a guy in a settlement, or you can eat the fish or something like that.
You can also turn them into the hunter for runes and things like collectibles and other things like that if you get a rare fish.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. I don't think they're trying to go for the same thing, though. I think the system is pretty simple in both games. It's just fishing, and it's good that it is there in Valhalla, but I don't think it's a case of comparing it. I think it's a case of, oh, look, it's here, and it works. It's a system that works, and you can sort of leave it at that, because it's quite relaxing, actually. Yeah. And you can take a boat out, and you can fish from the boat, or you can fish from the shore, and you can find a fish in a similar format to Red Dead, but I feel like Red Dead is trying to go for the realism of well, it went for the realism. It tried to make it as realistic feeling as possible, and I don't think Assassin's Creed is trying to do that. Assassin's Creed has always had, elements that make it a little bit not realistic. Really, it's not really about realism. It's about the. I think Assassin's Creed used to thrive on its gameplay being plausible rather than, magical
it's always been
or possible.
This awesome combination of history and sci-fi in the sense that you get to go to a period of time that you're interested in, but there happens to be these things like Isu or like these sci-fi elements that kind of make you rethink the way history kind of played out in reality. I have one more question for you, or a couple if you have time still. I
have all the time in the world.
Okay. one of my moderators, Dynamite5, is actually a pretty big fan of yours, and I offered him an opportunity to ask you a question. His question is, do you think Eivor is going to join the Hidden Ones, or do you think they're gonna just work alongside the Hidden Ones?
Dynamite 5 with an absolute banger of a question. I just want to say that outright. Man, oh, that is a question I love to entertain. Yes, see, I think that Eivor is going to join the Hidden Ones.
Okay.
I think that, first of all, the symbolism... Do you know that key art of Eivor and Basim?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got Eivor with the hidden blade atop his wrist, and then you've got Basim with the hidden blade on the inside of his wrist. Or her wrist with Eivor, sorry. And so you've got this difference. I think the story is going to be Eivor joining the Hidden Ones, and I reckon one of the final scenes in the game, if you don't want to hear this, I don't know it's not really a spoiler, but even still, if you don't want the experience ruined by expectations based on a theory of mine, you've got 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. Well, okay, I can't be asked. Tough. Basically, I think one of the final scenes in the game will be Eivor putting the wrist on the inside. Well, sorry, putting the blade on the inside of their wrist and taking off their ring finger. I reckon that will be one of the final shots. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
That'd be really ace. I think that would be good. I think that would be even better as the last shot. You know, the very last shot before it ends. Just that, bam.
That'd be. They need to hire you as like a consultant during the next one, just so you can give them some good final shot ideas.
For the most part of the game, however, I feel like Eivor will be primarily working with the Hidden Ones. It will be working as sort of like, you know, they have common enemies and they have common friends, and so it works in their best interest to cooperate and work together and be pals. And so you've got the bureau in the settlement, so there's definitely an affiliation. That's absolutely for certain. And I reckon towards the end of the game we'll get more and more involved with the actual Hidden Ones approach to things, the more assassin-esque stuff that's going on. We'll get more of a we'll be more in deep and we'll have more understanding of the Order of Ancients. As Darby said, he wants to define the Order of Ancients from the Templars. He wants to show how they're sort of different. One's proto-Templar, but not quite Templar. How their goals are not necessarily aligned. How they're slightly varied, and so I think that seeing that difference will require Eivor to get quite intimate with the Hidden Ones. So I think there'll be a progression. So the answer is yes to both. It'll start off as that mutual relationship to serve common interests, and will develop more into they all have the same goal. And that same goal will be more oriented towards stopping the Order of Ancients in Viking style.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be an option? So, like, I don't know. I've noticed some interesting things when it comes to Sigurd. He is the head of the Raven clan where Eivor comes from, right? And then you get introduced to this. There's a chance that things could lead to where maybe Sigurd, because he's kind of missing a lot in a lot of the stuff that he might be, there's a chance he could be supporting the Order of the Ancients. Do you think they would put it into the story with all these options and choices that you have a choice to either side with the Hidden Ones or with Sigurd and like the Order of the Ancients kind of?
I think that Darby... Well, okay. I'm going to answer this question in 2 parts. First, I'm going to address it, and then I'm going to go off and explain how I see Sigurd. So, first things first, you've got... first things first, I think that Darby McDevitt has stated that the story's more or less going to end the same. Like, they've got an ending in mind. They want to go for that. And really, you can make some decisions along the way, but I don't think you'll be making any decisions that massive. I think everything will wind up ending the same with different variants, but it will be for the most part the same set ending, because at the end of the day, they're trying to visit history and they're trying to make it canon in a way that sort of applies to the modern day, and so they've got to do that in a sense that doesn't go too branching. It doesn't branch out too far, and so they don't have the agency necessarily to go, you can join the Order of Ancients or you can join the Hidden Ones. But with Sigurd, I think the best character to compare him to that we know of in Assassin's Creed so far may actually be Pierre Balek. So he won't ever join the Order of Ancients. In fact, I think he'll remain their enemy. But
Interesting.
it's been suggested that he has a dark side. It's suggested that he's a bit more. He's got a dark side, so it's very possible that he could go off the rails. He could go after the Order of Ancients, but go at the people. Like, you got the people they influence rather than the Order themselves. Whereas Eivor and the Hidden Ones will be going after the Order and not the people, and so there'll be a little conflict there of what of morals of what we stand for. What's the point in taking the fight to the Order if we're just going to become them? I think that's basically what the dynamic will be, and I reckon it'll probably end with us killing Sigurd. There's no two ways about that. You know when there's a character that's friendly with you and you're going to wind up killing them. You know if you're going to kill them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I have that feeling with Sigurd, but I feel like it's because he's going to go a bit too Viking. He's going to go very brutal, very aggressive, and it's going to turn into a bit of a dynamic of, well, I know what I have to do, but this is one of those things where it's emotional, but it's not related necessarily directly to the Order. The Order is obviously the root cause for all of it, but I feel like Sigurd will still, in his mind, be their enemy and them him. I just think that he's going to have a different idea of approaching it to the protagonist, to the Hidden Ones, and so they're going to go a separate way. And because it interferes directly with what the Hidden Ones stand for in their beliefs, it's going to wind up with, well, Sigurd has to go, and so it'll be down to Eivor to do it. That's how I see it happening, and I reckon that'll be how it goes. And Sigurd is one of those characters that I think will be one of the more fascinating ones of Valhalla, purely because that dynamic will probably be gradual. It will be, starts off, maybe it's a bit like Dutch sort of thing from Red Dead, maybe not necessarily as deep or as intricate as that's a very big focal point in Red Dead, but it'll be a bit like that in the gradual sense of slowly but surely becoming not who you think.
Yeah.
And so that'll be Sigurd for you.
I definitely am curious how much inspiration was drawn from Red Dead with this game a little bit, but
I don't know. Oof.
Yeah.
Red Dead could inspire. I mean, Red Dead is I think a lot of people look at Red Dead and go, "This is a very inspiring game," but I think Red Dead is very much so it's a story of characters. It's a tragedy built within a parody universe that is done so masterfully that I have no clue how they managed. I've always looked at Red Dead as that little parody tragedy. It's got the both. It masters both, and it puts it in a hyper-realistic open world with Red Dead Redemption 2. I think a lot of games look at that and go, this isn't necessarily what we're trying to achieve, but this game did incredibly well, and it's so many things that made people love it. What can we take away from that and make our own in our own games? What can we use there? I don't necessarily know how much would apply to Assassin's Creed. I don't think much, but I think if it's taught us anything about characters, it's about I think it's going to be the emotional connection to the characters that we both come to love and the ones we come to hate. And I feel like that's the biggest takeaway that a game like Assassin's Creed would need from Red Dead. Red Dead is a different kind of game. It's going for a different style, a different feel, and a different reality in itself. But the characters, how it makes you feel about character, is certainly the thing that I would be taking away from Red Dead if I was working on Assassin's Creed. I'd be looking at it and going, well, character-driven story is great. And Darby McDevitt is a great writer in many respects, and one of the things that I love about Black Flag are the characters. Those incredibly well-written characters, and how that spurs on an emotional journey for Edward, turning him from pirate to assassin. And that's what I think about that one. I think that if anyone can do the characters right, it's Darby. Because Darby and whoever Darby's working with, they'll be working with his direction because he's the narrative director and lead writer. And I think characters at the very least will be something that this game will thrive on, which is an improvement over Origins and Odyssey, because I can't look at those games and say that the characters in them, besides from maybe the protagonists, stood out to me. Like Bayek in Origins stood out, but I couldn't give you another character that I looked at and went, oh yeah, this character was incredible. Really loved this one. Odyssey, on the other hand, had a few characters that I thought, yeah, okay, decent, but again, nothing that I look at and go, that's special. And the protagonist in Odyssey is an odd one as well, and I don't really know what to think about them. But I look at it and go, If anyone can write characters, it's Don McDevitt, and he's the narrative director slash lead writer on Valhalla. I think that this will be the strongest of this trilogy of, I don't know what to call this trilogy, but I
The
think Darby
ancient
gave it
trilogy.
ancient trilogy. I mean,
Yeah,
you could say so, but Vikings ancient. I'm not
that
so
is true.
sure. I think it's something along that line, but I feel like this will end this will end this trilogy with the better characters that we've seen in it, and
Hmm.
also probably the best story.
Yeah.
I reckon Bayek may still be the strongest character in the entire trilogy, but Bayek was incredible. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Bayek was.
Bayek was something else. Bayek
I
was
love that.
absolutely phenomenal.
I did love
Yeah,
in Valhalla the demo Ivar as a character. He was
yeah.
like pretty goofy, but like I don't know. I got pretty connected to him pretty quickly.
It's a
Um,
subversion of expectation. You
yeah,
look at him, he looks cruel and mental.
yeah,
And so you get used to him. It's like, this guy's going to be my enemy. And you know what? I reckon at some point he will become your enemy. If they go
yeah.
down the route of Sigurd, and Sigurd turning into a bit corrupt, going a bit loopy, and maybe going a bit brutal and killing people who don't need to die.
Hmm.
I reckon Ivar's most likely to back that. But what I really like is that the character is presented in this insane way, but is actually an ally. And so
Hmm.
it gives you that suggestion of, what if we're just keeping our enemy close here?
Yeah.
and
Well,
and
and
so there's that dynamic to take.
the Ragnar brothers are kind of seemingly to also have a kind of a split similar to Eivor and Sigurd in the sense
Yeah,
that one of
there's
the
some
Ragnars.
mirroring there as well.
Yeah.
It's a foreshadowing. It's surely it's
Hmm.
foreshadowing, which I guess is storytelling 101. Always foreshadow,
Yeah.
because it's great. It just gives you a bit of an idea of what's going to happen before it does. It
Hmm.
makes you doubt things before they need doubting, and so when something happens, you look at it and go, "Oh, I see what's going on now. Now I care. Now I know that I saw this begin. Now it's time to see it through." And I
Hmm.
feel like that's a really neat little thing that you can do. And I reckon, again, if anyone can write that kind of story, for sure, Darby McDevitt and anyone that Darby McDevitt works with, because, well, I'd imagine they're a great team, and also Darby's a great writer. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Do you think here's one of the last story questions? Do you think we're going to get like a Templar's origin story at all? Because we're starting to get into
We're starting to
Catholicism.
get there, aren't we?
Yeah,
Ooh, you know what? That could be a very interesting thing to throw in, couldn't it?
yeah,
It could be very interesting to see that applied. See, I reckon they won't be called the Templars in this game purely because
yes.
the Templars are pretty crusade based, aren't they? They're
Hmm.
originally a group of warrior monks, excuse me, that essentially they protected the roads to, I think, was it the Holy Land? They
Yeah.
protected those roads. That's where the Templars is in the word Templar. Knights Templar became a thing, and they adapted it, and then eventually they became referred to as Abstergo in the modern day. So
Hmm.
I don't think the Templars have ever specifically needed that name to ever be what they were. So
Hmm.
I reckon the Order of Ancients will maybe evolve in a way that makes them a little bit more in line with the Templars. Remember, Darby said he wanted to show how the Order of Ancients and the Templars vary, how they're different,
Hmm.
they are the same. How one is a younger version of the same order, but they actually have different goals, which has changed over time. Maybe we will see part of the change in this game. Maybe we'll see how that change comes to occur. And I
Hmm.
reckon that that'll be a very useful, very interesting, and ultimately incredible sort of story that you can have, something unique to Valhalla that defines it as an Assassin Templar story, or Assassin Hidden One, or Order of Ancients uh,
Hmm.
uh, Hidden One story, how it defines itself. I reckon how the Order could change from being more like the Order to being more like the Templars could be integral to that definition.
Hmm.
And so I reckon, yeah, I
It's
reckon
definitely
it's very possible.
it's super interesting to me because like with the Zealot system, which is I think a lot better, was this idea that Catholicism is trying to purge all the pagans out of England and that kind of stuff. So like that beginning history of like how Catholicism started growing in that time period is going to be pretty interesting to see, especially
Yeah, for
since the
sure.
Knights Templar were kind of issued by the Pope at the time too. So
Yeah. I reckon that branch could be quite useful. Maybe who knows? We'll see some Templars with the Templar goals existing to purge the hidden ones, or the Vikings or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think it'll be pretty neat, you know.
Hmm.
One way or another, it'll be pretty neat.
Yeah, I'll just keep asking. You tell me when you need to head out. But what's your so I watched your video about the DLCs and kind of the feedback, like how the word assassin wasn't used except to just announce the game.
So yeah, to
I
use the title.
Yeah, I felt like that they're trying to hold a lot of the Assassin's Creed elements close to the chest before launch. Like I feel like a lot of those elements they're trying to hold on to. Do you see kind of like a difference from Odyssey? There was a lot of Assassin's Creed elements in the DLCs, like with the Fate of Atlantis. I mean, they did kind of take the story in an interesting direction. But do you see a lot of the similar things happening in Valhalla, or do you expect the DLCs to just kind of be just regular gameplay expansions?
I reckon the DLCs for Valhalla will be narrative expansions too. I reckon there will be plenty of Assassin's Creed elements, probably in both of them, but at the very least, at one of them, maybe either the raids of the raids of Paris or something, or the other one. They both seem like they could be good for Assassin's Creed. The first one, the Wrath of the Druids, looks like a mystery. Looks like a great dark mystery, and that would be perfect for Assassin's Creed. But it seems to be very combat heavy, maybe a bit stooped in mythology, but only to a degree that is plausible in reality. Again, that's Assassin's Creed for you. But the other one looks like it could be, you're basically taking control of Paris from the inside out, is what it said. So maybe that's suggestive of Assassin's Creed elements. Maybe they'll both have them, maybe neither will, but I reckon at least one will. Otherwise, I don't know. But as far as the narrative is concerned, now I look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey's Assassin's Creed elements in the DLC, and I look at it and that I think that it's there for the sake of it rather than for having or serving any purpose. With Darius, he dresses exactly like an assassin would, holds the assassin beliefs and uses a hidden blade and does the leap of faith 400 years before any of that was actually formed into a brotherhood. So that makes him basically a walking sales pitch for a brotherhood that doesn't exist yet. And it's just such a weird combination to see that, especially with the leap of faith, which was just preset in Origins. It exists purely. It exists in the assassin ideology because of Bayek's father teaching him the leap to make him conquer his fears. But that's how the leap of faith comes to be an assassin-related thing. So I don't understand why Darius would do the same thing. As for the gameplay in Odyssey, I feel like it's there for convenience above all else. It's not really actually there, but that DLC sort of makes you go, oh, so it is there. But why? I can't quite explain. That's the thing that confuses me, is that explanation. And so that entire DLC just works as a brand sales pitch for the sake of it. And there's so many weird things in that DLC. One of them that made me laugh out loud was at the end of the DLC when you see the cutscene of Darius and the child walking through Egypt, the child growing up, and then you see the generations come down. You see the pyramids being built 2,000 years after they were built, and you know what? For some credit, for some historical accuracy. Well, to compare it to another historical inaccuracy that would actually be more accurate than that is if Cleopatra had an iPhone 7 and was browsing Twitter. And so,
that is the amount of time. You're right. Like that, there's the amount of time between Julius Caesar and like iPhones is the same.
It is actually shorter than between that and the pyramids being built. So I think that's pretty funny. I think that's amusing. So that DLC works out that way, and then you've got the Fate of Atlantis, which, oh god, I don't even know.
Wait, you mean to tell me you didn't like Layla stabbing Otso Berg and paralyzing him? You weren't a big fan?
I loved it. My favorite part was Layla killing Victoria for no reason, just slapping her upside the head with the staff and going goodbye, and then telling her to get up like she isn't dead. And I thought, okay, well, I would love to see. I loved it because it was just so funny, but it was not what they wanted me to. It was not what they wanted me to feel. They didn't want me to laugh out loud in that scene.
No.
And so I'd like to see some tonal delivery in Valhalla.
Yeah.
If it can deliver tone and it can work out, not winding up being a brand sales pitch for the sake of it, which I reckon it can be. I reckon it won't be some form of. It won't be some Assassin's Creed for the sake of it. It'll be Assassin's Creed because Assassin's Creed. It'll be because this is Assassin's Creed, and so this story fits. I reckon that's probably the route they're going to go for, as opposed to just we want to tell this story, but we'll just. I don't know what they're thinking with that, but it was funny, but it wasn't. It didn't deliver any other emotion.
I know.
And then. Yeah, and if they can get us to do that while doing something of substance, then win-win, I guess. But I don't know.
Layla
I feel like
has
Assassin's
a lot
Creed
of explaining to do.
Layla has a, but the thing is, the modern day, I worry, will jump forward a year and we'll miss all of it, like we did between Origins and Odyssey. First things first, Layla's quite reluctant to become an assassin. Great arc to explore. Why don't we see that arc happen? No, Layla's an assassin now. It's been a year. And Layla just killed Victoria for no reason other than because she took a staff. She's not a happy lady. And then a year later, it's all right. You were corrupted by the staff. We forgive you. I guess that's like I guess that was the Layla equivalent to Desmond stabbing and killing Lucy, and it was just absolutely absurd. And so I'm hoping that they do sort of. I think Devitt has said that there will be some form of like redemption in there. There'll definitely be some some ripples from Odyssey. There's, this does get addressed, sort of thing. So I'm just hopeful. I'm just hopeful that there is. I'm just hopeful that they deliver it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I've got another meme question for you. Do you anticipate seeing Cassandra show up in a suit at some point in Valhalla, since she's alive during this period of time with...
I'm pretty sure she's booked in at the dry cleaners at that point, so I wouldn't say... I don't think Cassandra's going to be there very much. It'll be very funny if Cassandra showed up in that two-piece suit, wouldn't it? Just appeared, just stood there and thought, wait, hang on. Or it'll just be really funny. It's one of those things where you don't want to see her, but if you did, you would be rolling on the floor in a hysterical fit of laughter, because I saw that ending was that ending. It happened, and I thought, oh my god, what have they done? I was like, what have they done? And now I've been living ever since knowing that for the entire time that I've been playing Assassin's Creed up until that point, all the stories, while they all happened, Cassandra was just chilling in a cave. What was she doing? Nobody knows, but all we know is she was holding the staff.
We should do we should make where is Cassandra in the moment, during each game, and find someone.
But where's Wally? But it's Cassandra.
Yeah. Where is Cassandra during the period of time of Valhalla? We need to figure that out.
Have her show up for a split second, be like Gaunter O'Dim of the Assassin's Creed universe.
I would be down.
God, no!
Don't give him any ideas.
Ubisoft, stop it! Don't even think about it, Ubisoft. What are you doing? Don't do this, please. Oh god, I reckon it. You know what? If they did it subtly, it'll be like, oh, this is terrifying. But I don't feel like the character. I feel like the character story's been concluded. There'll be no point bringing them up again. We've just got to rejoice in the fact that they're just chilling in a cave for all eternity now. I guess. Which is such an odd thing.
Yeah. Do you have any theories on what the whole Animus choosing the gender thing? Because it sounds like this is kind of alluding back to the higher ups. I definitely, especially with all the news that came out this past year about the female characters and all that kind of stuff, was it's kind of obvious that the higher ups are you have to have male and female choices for Assassin's Creed games moving forward.
Yeah.
And this canon, let the Animus choose, I think is Darby's best shot at trying to make that work. I don't know. What do you think?
I think, first of all, I think that it's a bit of a difficult one to turn into a mystery for sure, if it was the mystery. But I don't think the mystery is going to be what gender is Eivor really. Why is it's going to be, why is this happening? More accurately, why is the Animus doing this? What is causing the Animus to do this? What is causing this variable to happen? And I reckon that will be probably most likely to do with something completely unrelated in the end that is really cool, likely to do with the first Civ or Layla's Animus or something like that. But this is just one of the effects it causes. So I feel like once you realize that the mystery won't necessarily revolve around Eivor's gender being changed like every given moment or something, and that's an effect of something else that's happening, I reckon it'll become, okay, what is that something else? And that'll become the mystery. And I reckon that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely ties in. Go ahead.
But I find it a bit weird how, if that is the case, then why isn't that just the only option? If you can turn it off one way or the other and be male or female just set, then surely you'd be missing out a huge chunk of narrative. And I don't know what to think about that one.
Well, if someone's that focused on wanting to be male over female or something like that, then they don't strike me as someone who's would be super interested in the narrative in the first place. But
no, but then again, you got to understand as well, is with that system, it could get annoying too.
Yeah, definitely.
That change could start to annoy you a little bit and be like, oh god, what? Why now?
Yeah.
I was having a great moment with female Eivor, and now Eivor has a beard. I should never have romanced this man, or whatever. Now everything looks funny.
It switches right at the romance cutscene.
I hope it does, you know.
Yeah.
I hope it does, you know.
That would be funny.
I hope it does that every single time. I hope it changes the gender of the other character too. It just completely subverts your expectations. Well, you've tried to romance two women. Well, now one's a bloke and the other is a goblin. So
That's so funny. It does the idea of the glitching Animus is like, it's kind of already said there because we can't showcase it, but the Animus anomalies that are out there, that definitely kind of is pointing to the idea that the Animus is kind of on the fritz a little bit, it seems like, in this game potentially.
It always has the moment where it fragments and there's stuff that you have to delve a little bit into the Animus itself as opposed to the simulation it's creating to figure it out. You had that with the Truth in 2. You had that with the Truth in Brotherhood, two little separate things where you sort of break down the Animus and see all the secrets left behind by Subject 16. Those sorts of mysteries. I like a good Animus mystery. I reckon that could have something to do with the gender thing that's going on for sure. But there will be a cause for it, I reckon, and that cause will be probably not related necessarily straight away, but it'll be something that makes sense, something that feels like it works, and I reckon that's pretty cool, you know. So I reckon there's something to be had there. I think it's important that we don't focus too much on what it's doing rather than what's actually causing it. Yeah. Because if we do that, we're just going to get confused.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty excited. I do have another. What your experience with the combat? Mine was, it felt a lot more grounded, and I like the weapon types. It actually made fighting a lot more fun. I felt like than it, like in Odyssey, you kind of felt like you're a demigod, and as you can, if you go anywhere in my channel, there's a way to make Cassandra one hit everything, and so versus this one felt like you could get a really strong weapon, but a certain character might have like a great shield and you just can't bust through, so you have to figure out, how am I going to approach like this particular battle. Do you concern yourself very much with the combat at all, or
the combat? And me, I think it's better to play than it is to watch. I think, for one, like looking at it, it doesn't feel like there's much there, but when you play it, it's pretty decent. I feel like there's some inconsistency in the range of certain weapons. Sometimes the character will be within range for one hit and it will be fine, but another time it'll be the same range, but the weapon will miss. It'll be the same weapon, just a different location, but the distance will be the same, and it will be a little bit inconsistent. You'll be like, okay, so I can't really get the measure of it. It's just like a dying clutch on a car. But I feel like there's that to take into account. I feel like the combat is a little bit janky. Some of the camera angles can be a bit nauseating at times, especially if you use the abilities as well. The camera angle flies all over the place, and it can make you just. I think it can have moments where it's like, well, I'm gonna vomit now, but it gives you that vertigo for a minute. But I feel like the combat is grounded. It's quite deep. There's a lot to it. It's not bad. It's not a terrible combat system. It's just not very flattering to look at. I think is the main thing with it.
Mm-hmm.
The kill animations look good.
Yeah.
But the open free form, when you're actually in the combat itself, when you're hitting enemies, when you're dodging attacks, it feels like it's a bit of a mess. It just feels like that, and it looks like that too. And at times it can be an utter madness is what it is. And when you slow it down in a one-on-one situation, that's where you feel like, you know what, this combat and me, we're getting along now.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the combat gets along. When you're able to slow it down in boss fights and stuff like that, where it's just you against one enemy, that's where the combat thrives the most. But when it's several enemies, you're all over the place.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the combat of Valhalla, it's passable for combat. It's good combat. I guess it will work for Viking stuff, but is it the best combat system I've ever played? Not by quite a bit, I'm afraid.
What's the best combat system that you've played
in any game ever?
Yeah, if that's
the best. Okay, I'll give you the best. I'll tell you what. I couldn't answer that question because I don't know, but I could tell you the best Assassin's Creed combat system ever, and it's not in Assassin's Creed. It's in Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, okay.
That combat system is beautiful.
Yeah,
it's pretty open, but it's pretty aesthetic as well, and it's very even, balanced, and feels fun and satisfying. It's great.
Yeah, is there a lot of things that you wish Assassin's Creed could learn from Ghost of Tsushima? Because I feel like they kind of were creating a similar-ish game to a degree. Obviously, the lore and the time period is different, but
yeah. Well, the stealth is pretty good in Ghost for sure. Yeah. Obviously, there's no social stealth because it isn't actually Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
But Ghost is, in a way, pretty Assassin's Creed-like in a lot of aspects. It's like if Assassin's Creed hadn't gone down the RPG route, I feel like it would have gone down a more Ghost-like route. I feel like Ghost would have been, what Assassin's Creed could have been. I think they could learn from that in a way. They can make the combat a bit like that, a bit more clarified, a little bit nicer to look at, and also very fun and easy. Not easy to play, but very fun and engaging to play, to the point where it feels like the more you play it, the better you get, alongside unlocking the skills, whereas just having a block system. And I feel like Ghost does that so well, where at first you're like, oh, I don't really know how to figure this out, and then you figure it out, and it's like, you know what, this isn't too bad. It's not easy. It's not difficult. It's just moderately challenging, and it keeps you engaged. Sometimes it's really hard in some boss fights, and other times it's not. It's just it goes and it breaks it down, and it gives you an expectation from the go, and so you can sort of use that and see how it goes from there. I feel like they could take that combat system and that stealth system a little bit, add in the social stealth, and you have an Assassin's Creed game already. That put in a couple of big cities as well, and you know what? Ghost is pretty passable. Might as well be Assassin's Creed, but good in a lot of ways. That I don't feel like. If they ever
go to Japan or China or something like that, that definitely look to that game for some inspiration for sure. Are you one of the Assassin's Creed fans who want like a setting based in Asia at all?
I would like to see I'd like to see a few. Obviously Japan would be cool at some point. I'd give it a few years. Let the Ghost hype die down properly. Let the generation advance to a point where it's like, well, that game is done, but that game was back then. Now we can seize the market, and people can't look at it and go, oh, it's just copying Ghost. They've got to wait for the window for Japan now. But the other one that they could do is China. Now, I'm very disappointed that Xiao Yun was wasted on Chronicles, like a little side-scroller game, because I think she would have been a great protagonist to go to China with in a main Assassin's Creed game. I dare I say it would have been nice if that was Assassin's Creed 3, but sometimes it just doesn't go your way. I feel like that's something that could happen, or if they ever wanted to do it, there'd be an audience for it, but I don't think they will. But I'd still like to see it, and I don't know that beyond that. I mean, I quite like all sorts of settings, but I couldn't tell you any more that popped in my head. Really, those are the two that I look at and go, that would work for Assassin's Creed. That would be really, really neat.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't know. When I think of like things that I would want from like a time period, I honestly I don't know what I want, and like I know it when I see it. So I'm not a very good person at like picking those out, because the things that I'm interested in terms of like actual, I think of like the time period of history that I like the most, and I like World War I, World War II, even though they were very like violent periods of time in human history. But at the same time, like it's hard to imagine.
Assassin's Creed,
yeah, exactly. Like
I know what you mean.
Force that in.
Yeah, no, I also I like the Wild West, but I could never see Assassin's Creed go there, because it's just too modern. It's too close to now. Yeah. I feel like one day it'll be an interesting dynamic if the historical setting is World War II or something, and the protagonist is alive but very old in the modern day, and they could have a dynamic there. They could do that at some point, but I reckon that would be great for a side game. But I feel like for main Assassin's Creed, there needs to be hundreds of years between modern day and the setting, because Assassin's Creed, I quite like that. I quite like it being quite deep in history, quite far back, to the point where you can define it easier from the modern day, where it doesn't feel like it's the same, where it feels like you're experiencing something else entirely when you're in the modern day, and then when you go into the Animus, you're somewhere else again. I feel like that's a quality that is a quality that helps Assassin's Creed sci-fi aspect blend with the history aspect. It doesn't overlap too hard. It doesn't try to. But I would love to see a World War II sort of side game where the protagonist of the historical part is alive in the modern day but old. That would be a cool dynamic, because I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the character beginning, as this old man will get to experience their old man or woman, we get to experience their life, and there you go. And that would be something cool for a little side game. So I'll just come up with an idea for an Assassin's Creed side game. Ubisoft, make it happen, please.
There you go. And then cut Fizhy in a little bit. Give him a 5% cut, and then.
You don't have to give me a cut or anything like that. Just make me cry. How hard is it? Just how hard is it, man?
Also, like
you did it with Revelations. You do it again.
The amount of my gosh, I loved Revelation. Honestly, the underrated thing for me about Revelations 2 is the marketing. Like that trailer, that Revelations trailer. Whenever anyone from Ubisoft, or if people ask me like suggestions about like how to market these games, I'm like, just recreate the Revelations trailer. Man.
You remember the Revelations trailer? The one where Ezio's laying waste to an entire entire army outside Masyaf? Yeah, you see that? That is Assassin's Creed. That trailer right there
and the music. Like the Wood Kid, like it introduced me to like Wood Kid, and I started listening to his music more. It was just like
I like the variant that's in the intro to Revelations, where it uses the soundtrack, the Road to Masyaf, which is an incredible piece of soundtrack. It really gives you that. It really gives you that desperation of an old man doing what an old man shouldn't be able to do, and I like that. It was really, really great. But yeah, no, that's how you do it. I suppose it looks like if you've ever said that to Ubisoft, it would if it was before Valhalla was announced, it appears as if they listened with that first trailer a little.
They definitely
that is something
to do that.
They definitely tried. They heard you.
Hopefully.
Let's hope they heard you.
The music I liked. I mean, I'm just gonna keep going here, man, because I'm just having a swell time with you. I appreciate your taking the time out of your day.
Of course, I've got all night free, so I'm good to go for however long you want me to.
I stream usually just for like 3 hours. We've been going for about an hour and a half. I wanted to talk, but I also wanted to ask you about your streaming too. But I'll keep it concise here. Did you notice? I noticed the music. I mean, I'm not trying to like toot Jesper Kid's like horn here, but he's obviously a great musician. But like, I felt the music was really kind of immersive in the game. Like when you would get into a battle scene versus like, did you know? Like I noticed the music in Valhalla, and I couldn't for the life of me remember noticing music in Odyssey besides like the beginning scene, like the like when she's like singing on the side of the.
I remember a bit of Odyssey soundtrack. It wasn't my
Yeah.
the hardest thing to forget about is the main theme, which plays after the end of every quest, even if that quest is sad. Be a sad moment, everyone's sad. It'll end da da da, and it's like, oh God, please no, not now. So it drills into your head and gives me PTSD. I'll dream about it and wake up in a cold sweat. But no, yeah, the soundtrack for Valhalla, from what I've heard so far, is absolutely phenomenal. Like, really captures that Viking fantasy. I don't think there was very much music in the demo, the 6-hour demo I played recently. Like, I don't think it was there. There was ambience music in the 3-hour demo from July, so I know that there's going to be some ambience music and stuff.
I need to find it. There was like when I went to the city, there was a particular soundtrack that I noticed. And then when I don't know if it was the assault or one of the raids that I did, but the combat music felt like it kind of was giving me semi chills in the sense like that I was like, okay, I need to
feels
like,
Viking.
Yeah, like I wanted to fight pretty. Here I
Yeah.
don't know if you're watching me play. I just assassinated a random person on the road. Needed to see if we still had a desynchronization if you kill, which you do. You desync if you kill innocent people now.
I remember that because I gave that a try myself. I did that in the first demo I played. Actually, I basically found a civilian, shot them in the head with an arrow, and it said, "They will desynchronize if you keep doing that. So please stop." And I was like, "Okay, thanks. I guess it works better than a shallow system of mercenaries hunting you down if you kill too many civilians, who you can get rid of by opening the map and holding down on Y or triangle."
Which is strange because, like, in ancient Greek, like, the Greek mercenaries weren't really known. I guess they probably, I'm not saying they didn't murder any innocent people, but, like, in Odyssey, you could take on the entire city of Athens and they'd all pick up brooms. But then you have, like, a Viking game where there is some historic record that they did kind of execute innocent people at times. When they were raiding, and you can't do it this game. That's pretty interesting.
I'd love to see every character charge at you with a broom. It's just my favorite Assassin's Creed example of random NPCs fighting you is Revelations, when you pick too many pockets and you turn around and there's just a massive crowd of people with their fists up just following you. And I look at that and go, "Yep, I am an assassin. I'm a man of the people, well and truly." And then that's followed by 15 minutes of you just headbutting people. So I think that's what I like about. I feel like that's quite funny. I did find it really weird in Odyssey how everything that you accidentally hit will attack you. So if you're in a fight with something, even chickens will attack you. Why? Why are the chickens attacking me? I'm very confused.
Did you come across the alpha chicken, though, in Odyssey?
I think I might have come across the alpha chicken, actually. Yeah.
It was on an island, and...
the alpha chicken.
It was called that when you hover over it. It was called the alpha chicken and everything.
The alpha chicken. Man, Odyssey, that is a different breed of game. Oh, God.
True. The... I that was pretty annoying when, like, you're just trying to, like, you're riding your horse. Like, name any game you've, like, ridden a horse through town through and you haven't accidentally clipped someone. And so, like, in Odyssey, you just, like, ride through the town and you clip one person and then everybody in the town
once you're dead,
grabs their brooms and are like, "We're going to take on this demigod right now."
They're out for blood. Yeah, no, it's like... I think it's really funny. It's like what you ride through town, you'll knock someone over. You'll do it wantonly as well. Like, you won't care too much because if you're on horseback, you're just going to outrun them all and leave, and your horse has infinite stamina, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you hang around for a bit after you've bulldozed somebody, the brooms are out, the chickens are out, hell, even the dogs want some. Maybe the occasional cat will waltz up and be like, "Hey, what's up?" And the guards will just watch you. There may be some guards or something. I don't really remember. Maybe some soldiers, and there'll be some, and maybe some bandits in the distance. They'll just watch you lay waste to a town, and then after it's done, there may be a quest in that town. You walk up to it, and you just take the quest, be the hero of the day, you know. And then you have the other quest, which you can do straight after, in which there's an old man who is, you know, he's old and he's not really feeling up to it with his wife, if you know what I mean. So you can choose to stand in for him. I do think that there was actually I think there was actually some form of Greek practice of, you know, I think it was Spartans, you know, there was a stand-in sort of practice like that. But after you've massacred a town and been hailed as the hero of the day, here you are, cucking out an old man. Isn't that just... That is
the ultimate Greek fantasy. That is the ultimate Greek fantasy.
Yeah. Hashtag like a Greek, everybody.
Hashtag like a Greek. God.
Hashtag like a Greek.
I need to find this clip. I'm gonna pause. I don't know if you're watching, but while we're talking, I've been playing my gameplay in the background.
Yeah, I've been seeing.
There's a part that I need to skip to, where I get I think this is it right here. I get absolutely clipped by a deer. Here, well, the video file is too long for me to skip, but we'll get there eventually. But in the thought of like random animals attacking you, I was in the settlement and I went to go check out a shop, and I like walk up to it and I just get blasted by a deer. It's gonna be this clip coming up here. You'll see it in a second. But
I'm watching with bated breath because I want to see a deer just put a Viking down. You know, it's about time the deer got back. All that venison. No, you're not having venison at your feast tonight, boy. You know, you're not having it tonight, fella. Goodbye. It's like, and you know, in moments like that, you've just got to allow it, right?
Yeah.
You just got to let it happen. Oh wow! I just saw it happen on the screen. That is something else.
Yeah, so there's still a little bit of Odyssey in there. The deer may come out, and they may end up clipping you sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You know, I love it when things like that happen, where you know you get bulldozed by something or someone else does. When I was doing I attended a capture session for Watch Dogs Legion back in July. Mm-hmm. And in that, I was being chased by like this Albion guy who was shooting at me and that stuff. So he started shooting at me. I went and took cover across the road. He walked out into the road, and the car came and ran him over. And it was really well timed. Like, it was so incredibly well timed that me and the demoist both, you know, burst out into laughter. It was incredible. Stuff like that, when that happens, it's great.
The same thing with me in this one. I know they said, I don't know if it counts as a bug, but I told them, like, it's not a bad thing. I wanted to see the physics of the river, and so I took the longship and just rammed right into a guy fishing and launched him like 100 feet in the air. And you and the demoist had a pretty good laugh at that one.
Yeah, so. No, that's incredible. Yeah, no, there was also a little boat when I was on the longship, and I decided I'd, you know, sail into it and drag it along with me. And it just sort of like got dragged along with me for a little bit. It was great. And there was a man on there like, I don't understand why you're doing this to me. Please stop. It was really funny. I think it was a good laugh. It was like, he's just coming with us. And I think the demoist just went, fair enough. You know, it was great. It was some proper comedy moments. I like when it comes to bugs. And things. I do think that bugs can be quite funny, but a lot of things that happen in the game are not exactly bugs. It's just that hasn't been taken into consideration necessarily.
Yeah, it's like you're pushing the physics engine or whatever to it.
If you push the physics, it's not really a bug. It's just what the game will do. It's pretty much. It's like I guess I like to look at it this way. So one of the things that I saw in the 6 hours I did recently was there was a cutscene. and in the cutscene, it's Ivar and Eivor getting drunk in like a barn, and a bloke is behind them. This bloke is not a part of the cutscene, just a regular NPC. Walks up to the cutscene, and then just 90-degree right-angle turns and walks away. And so I look at that and I go, that's not really a bug though. That's because that's the fact that the game, you know, the cutscenes are for obvious reasons in engine, and as a result of being in engine and in the gameplay, the world is still going on behind it. So if that NPC is there, then that NPC will be in the cutscene. And if the AI, for whatever reason, decides to move them towards the cutscene, you know, they will go towards it, but it will stop them from interfering, and then they'll walk away really abruptly.
Do you know
and so that's just the physics. That's where the physics of the game can create jank, and that's something that I love.
A genius idea. See how many drunks you can lure into cutscenes.
Oh yes. And then everyone has to take a shot. How many drunks you can find?
We'll have to start. In Odyssey, we were doing like a world record damage challenge. The new world record for Valhalla is how many lured drunks you can get into a cutscene, and then screenshot
Hashtag
it.
like a Viking. I mean, you know. Oh god, I love luring drunks. I didn't figure it out how it worked, but I think I got the general gist. Like you lure them, then you command them to do things, or you create a scene.
Yeah, you lure them, and they just follow you indefinitely. I can't say indefinitely because I didn't try luring them for a very long time.
If you move slowly enough, they'll follow you for sure.
But
if you run off, they're not going to run after you.
Yeah, I used them though because one of the quests in the city, because I like that in Saxon cities, you're distrusted there, so you kind of have to kind of be pretty low key,
stealthy.
And so you have to be at least blend in, and it incentivizes you or makes you use the social stealth features. And so they wanted us to go into like that chapel to find some information or whatever, and there was like 2 guards at the front, and I told myself, I'm like, I'm not gonna like just brute force this door down. So I used the drunk and like the guards like came away from the door and started like harassing the drunk guy, and I was able to kind of like stealth around behind them into it. So I like the idea that you can kind of take them to specific spots and the world just kind of reacts to their existence. It kind of leads to very just different experiences, which I think is going to be pretty fun.
Yeah. I do wonder, right, if you can actually lure the drunks and then buy them a drink. Because, come on.
Have them
Can we lure the drunks for the sake of having a sit down and listening to their life story and listening to their wisdoms? And they're like, listen, mate, the other week I saw a giant chicken. It was wonderful. and he's there like, are you all right? And then he's just there spitting straight back to you like, today is the youngest you'll ever be and the oldest you've ever been. And you just sat there like, okay, be insightful. I don't like Barry. I think he's a bit of a poo head. I'm going to go and set fire to his house now. Then he gets up and walks off. It's like, see, I live in Greater Manchester, right? And whenever I get on the tram to go into the city, there's always a crackhead. There is always a crackhead. Every time without fail. Please tell me that we get to have crackheads telling us stories because it's great. The last time I was on the tram, there was a crackhead with no teeth stood in the door talking about how she hated God. She was there like, I hate God, me. He never done anything for me. He's not my problem. I have too many problems. I'm like, yes, you do. And so imagine that, but in Assassin's Creed. Please let the drunks be lured like that. That would be great.
I live in Southwest United States, like in Arizona, and the homeless people here, they're rather mean, actually. they have said some gnarly the crackheads around here. They've hurt my feelings in the past.
Oh no.
They attack you.
I love having my feelings, but if you get violated by a crackhead, then you know that you've lost, because that is that is somebody with nothing to lose.
Yeah. Although I did go to Ireland, Dublin, and there was a guy on the tram system there, or I think it was like a bus or a tram that I was on. I forget. Uh,
Yeah.
and he was being pretty funny. He was
Yeah,
definitely
that's
cracked
Ireland
out of
for
his
you.
mind, but he was being. I forgot exactly what he was saying, but I
It
remember like trying
it's
to hold
it's
my
always
laughter in.
funny with intoxicated people in these ends, Ireland, the UK. It gets really hairy. It gets mental. And so we get to see that in Valhalla. you know.
I,
Have you ever been to the UK then, or just Ireland?
I no, I flew through London. Actually, it was so funny. It was for my honeymoon with my wife. We went to Ireland, but we had to go through UK
To London
customs.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the guy who's looking at our passport goes, he's not smiling at all. This was like one of my first like kind of UK experiences,
Yeah.
and he's like not smiling, and he's pretty stern. He's like, "What are you doing going to Ireland? Why are you going to Ireland?" I'm like, "Well, we're just celebrating. We got married." He's like, "What day of the week did you get married on?" And I'm like,
Yeah, it's just there questioning you, like,
"Well,
it's the kind of guy
well,
who's really wounded that you're
he
not having a pint in the UK.
he's like he's
Oh.
being mean or aggressive, but like and he goes, "What day of the week did you get married?" And I'm like, "We got married on a Saturday." And he's like, "Why'd you get married on a Saturday? Everyone gets married or a Sunday." Sorry, he's like, "Why'd you get married on a Sunday? Everyone gets married on a Saturday. That doesn't make sense." And I'm like, I don't know. That was the day I picked." And
Just happens, I guess, man.
and he starts like subtly smirking. He's like, I've got a hairdresser friend. She does all the weddings, so she's the only one who could have got married on Sunday." And then he like glares at me for a half second and goes, "All right, have fun in Ireland." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what?"
Yeah,
He just trolled me.
Yeah, no, it just sounds like it. That is that that. We have an age-old custom here in the UK, and it's called taking the piss. We do it. That is the rule with your mates, with your parents, anything. You take the piss. It's cool. It's really light-hearted about it. It's great. As for more mannerable people, I feel like the north has a lot more polite people. But I'm from the southwest originally. I live in the north, so I've got the best of both worlds. West country accent sometimes mixed with a northern accent. No, yeah. So it can be a right hybrid, and people are like, "Where are you from?" Then and I'm like, "A bit of all over, really." But if you ever up Manchester way, the banter up here is mental. It's something else. It's pretty funny. I want to see Manchester in Assassin's Creed. Oh well.
Well, no, Manchester's not in this game. That I guess leads
It won't
me
be.
to,
No.
does the environment of what you've seen in England, does it feel kind of similar, or is it decently accurate or different? Like, I don't know.
I didn't see enough rain.
Not enough rain and fog.
Yeah, I didn't see enough rain. I didn't see enough rain in any capacity. I didn't see enough rain. No. Also, I don't think it's going for that. The world is divided in this. The world space of what we can in England is divided into 4 different regions, and those regions are biomes. So
Yes.
you've got different weather environments, and they're vastly different. And obviously, because the map is quite compressed, it makes the hills and stuff look probably a lot sharper than they actually are in real life. So there's a lot of hills and stuff in the UK, but they're not necessarily as immediate as you'll see in Valhalla, because they're just trying to conserve space and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty good. But as long as I can attract a drunk in one part and then take that drunk all the way north, as far north as I can go, get them on a boat and take them to America. That would be great.
Yes.
The drunk wakes up in America like, I'm in America. What is America?
Yeah, how do you know this is America? I just know he got
Vinland
that drunk. He saw the future. That was the other thing I was talking about with JordanDoes was like the idea of these maps. Actually, this could be potentially bigger than Odyssey with all these different theater campaigns, because it's not going to be all one massive map. It's going to be a bunch of different maps. Like, we're going to have a Vinland map,
that's true,
with the DLCs, like a Ireland one, a Paris, Francia, Northern France, Normandy probably would be my guess. And then we have the English one. It's probably going to be a pretty expansive area to check out, even though
it could be pretty big with the DLC involved. Yeah,
which is
I think so. Yeah, it'll be huge.
interesting to think about because it's only kind of featuring England, which is a relatively small piece of land. But that's pretty cool.
You can still make it pretty big in the confines of a game, though, can't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Like like England is not so small that it wouldn't be that you wouldn't have to downscale it to make it into even the biggest world map that you could do. Because England is quite small, but there is still quite a lot, and it's quite dense as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a dense country. There's a lot going on, so there's definitely a lot to work with. So it could very easily be the biggest map. But I think it will likely not be the biggest by England alone. Then you've got Norway, you've got DLC of Ireland, DLC of Northern France, probably Normandy and Brittany, as you said. And then you've got North America, you've got Vinland, sort of like, which is like it's East Canada, really, isn't it? So you've got that, and once you add those places together, you've probably got a map that is bigger land-wise than Odyssey. But I don't know when you take into account the water, what it will be looking.
But consumable, it'll be a lot easier to consume because I was definitely a pretty Odyssey focused person, but I even was overwhelmed by.
It's overwhelming, yeah, because it's all in one area. Yeah. Whereas if you break it down so it's different spaces, you just go place to place.
For being the largest map, it felt like the smallest because. It almost felt like they were just trying to get the borders of Greece in there, and then like your traveling time between Athens and like another city was like real quick, and like the experience between the two was like not really there. Oh, we're about to see the guy get blown up by the ship. If you want to look at it.
Oh, I can't wait! It's gonna be beautiful.
Right.
Oh, there we go. There he goes. He's off. He's off on one. That reminds me of Black Flag. Sometimes you'd fast travel onto the ship, you'd be on the ship, and the ship will either be in the sky or it will be underwater, and you'll be launched into the air. Or one time I fell from stupid heights. Like I think I fast traveled to Principe, and then I just fell from the very limit of the sky all the way down, and I thought, what on earth? This is exactly what I expected today. You know, but I reckon when it comes to back to what you were saying about Odyssey, I agree with what you said. Like it felt like the smallest because it was the most shallow. It was wide, but it wasn't deep. There wasn't. It didn't feel deep. It just felt shallow and flat, and so
the only areas, that I found interesting was like the Macedonian area, which is like I thought would have been like a really cool DLC. It was like. I know Alexander the Great came several hundred years after the time that Cassandra is in there. But hey, if she's immortal, like, what's 100 years in the future? But like, I liked that region and like the stone buildings. But then the only different one was like Masera, which was like very kind of deserty, similar, not identical, but kind of brought back a little bit of the Origins feelings. But other than that, like you had one big snowy mountain, and it was kind of like everything else was camps and olive trees, you know.
There was a volcano as well. That was pretty cool. But
the volcano island was pretty. Yeah, okay.
The magic of it wears off when there's nothing to really do there besides when fight a Cyclops and be done. You know, just a random Cyclops that exists.
Do you know what we had to do? Those of us who like would do like the builds and all that stuff, we would have to save before that fight him, and then reload the save in order to replay it. So like technically on my Odyssey account, I've never actually beaten any of those characters.
Because you use that build to show the power of your
super
of your build,
axe. Yeah. Show them off on all the mythical creatures in the game.
Yeah, no, that is one hell of a fight, I guess, for that. If you can get them down in one hit, that's pretty magical. Yeah, I always look at when it comes to Valhalla, it may not necessarily be as big by space, but I reckon it'll be a bigger game by content. There's more to this game. There's more to find. There's more to do. There's more to see. There's more to like. There's more to explore. And the end result is the game is just well, it's just more. It's just more.
like
It's not more depth. It's
yeah,
vertical.
like the clip we're watching now is like it's the Roman ruins, and there's obviously some sort of mystery or wealth here, but like there's
Yeah,
no indication on where to get it and how to find it. So like
yeah.
you're gonna
No,
watch
I
me
found a
for
few of
like
those.
yeah, like 5 to 10 minutes is gonna be spent kind of like trying to figure out. That's the other part of the storyline that I feel is kind of underrated, is all this ancient Roman stuff from because which is
Yeah,
pretty historic. There's got to be some sort of tie along to that. Obviously in the main
yeah.
storyline, like because a lot of the hidden ones bureaus are in like ancient Roman ruins. So the Romans are gonna have a pretty interesting storyline too that I'm kind of interested in
Yeah, I'm
figuring out.
quite sure you're absolutely right there.
Hmm.
My hometown was originally a Roman city,
Oh
so
wow.
yeah, it's an ancient city. It won't be in
Is there
Valhalla because it's first country.
are so as you can see in this clip, the Roman ruins are pretty extensive. Is there like pretty solid Roman ruins still in your town that you can go see,
Uh,
or not really?
there's still a wall there. Yeah, there's still a wall.
Yeah.
I was born in Exeter, which is southwest UK.
Okay.
It's a city now. A big old. It's a tiny city really, but yeah, there are still some remnants of Rome like
Hmm.
getting about. But I don't know how much because I don't go there very often. I went for the first time in 3 years. The other like about a month ago.
Hmm.
Um, and I spent most of my time in the countryside around it. So I don't really have
Yeah.
a proper look around and to see if I can remember. But there is a wall. I know that much. There's a wall
Hmm.
and there's some other bits and pieces. But for the most part, it's relatively gone. But no, it's still cool to see Roman ruins having a
Hmm.
focus in Valhalla. And I think it'll be pretty neat to see how, to see how it plays into I guess, the mystery of why did the hidden ones leave? And obviously they would have arrived with Rome because that's where the
Hmm.
hidden ones, were established by the end of Origins. So they would have come with Rome and been like, we can help here.
Hmm.
And I just get absolutely murked by the
The zealot. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, no, I hear that if you manage to kill them, there's a White Room confession because they're some of the members of the Order of Ancients that you're contracted to kill, which is pretty
Yes.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, those
good
are
old.
they are Catholic zealot warriors who are out to kill as Danes, and specifically
Yeah,
you as the Raven clan. That is the one different thing. Like people are like the levels aren't there, but I would say like that's kind of a, a facade a little bit. There is a power level, and there
there is a power level. Yeah,
with each skill point you get more damage in a certain area and you get more resistance. So technically,
yeah,
like in this demo, I'm power level 20 or so, and that character is power level 90. And as you can tell, like sure, you can dodge, and probably beat the guy, but it does still seem very similar to like fighting someone who is a higher level in Odyssey because I don't
yeah.
have the skill sets to bring my resistances up to be able to take more hits from him, and
Yeah,
I don't or deal more damage to him. So,
it's like Origins where you'd have leveled off areas, so some areas would be
mhm.
higher level, but in all these areas you'd find the fire lakes,
Yeah.
and the fire lakes would be they would be a high level regardless of what level you were. So if you're low, they could be in any area, and they'd
Hmm.
still be a high level. And so as a result of that, you'd have to level up before you can even face them down. Otherwise, you'll just get killed and you'll just get beat. In this, there's
Hmm.
a chance you can do it, even at a low power level. And on top of that, there's no area restricted by your level. And then from that, the story also won't be leveled off. It won't have level walls. And so
Hmm.
your average enemy will be scaled to you, really. Well, I don't know if it's scaled to you or if it's scaled evenly to a point where, it doesn't really matter. It's just the skills that you'll find useful when you're facing your average enemies on a daily basis. But when it comes to boss fights and things, that's where the power level will make sense. And those skills will just be there for the sense of progression so you can unlock more and do more as you go and be like, oh, that's cool. I'll give that
Hmm.
a go. Maybe that'll be useful. Maybe I'll find a value for that outside of combat. Maybe I'll find a value for it in combat. Maybe it'll be a stealthy value, stuff like that. And as a result of that, your power level will increase, and eventually you'll get to a point where you'll be able to take on these zealots. And then once you and then it's just is just there for the sake of giving you something to work towards, as opposed to giving you something to grind against.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool.
I
You know?
think
I
it's
think
gonna
that's a
be a combination of like those phalanxes and the mercenary system, except instead of having this revolving door mercenary system like in
yeah,
Odyssey, it's gonna probably be just a limited amount of them. But it
yeah.
definitely, if you notice at the end of the demo, I'll give people a chance if you don't want to hear Leicester. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. But there's some spoilers to
Leicestershire
this. There you go. There's
or
some
something like
spoilers to
that.
this. Some spoilers in the what I'm about to say is at the end of the demo, they said, "Oh, the zealots are going to start hunting you. You need to go burn this piece of paper so they stop hunting you." So it seems like
Yeah,
a combination where this zealot seems to be hanging out in the same area a lot like the phalanxes from Origins, but
yeah.
if you conquer too many Saxon towns or makes too many alliances, they'll turn
You'll get wanted
red.
again.
Yeah, like the mercenary system in
They'll begin hunting you
Odyssey.
again.
Yeah.
But yeah, but what the way you get rid of it is by engaging with the world rather than the map,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it viable, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to just there as a pseudo. I'm going to use the word pseudo as a
Mm-hmm.
pseudo mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there. You think it's a mechanic, but in Odyssey, it's not actually a mechanic. It's just an inconvenience.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this, it feels like an actual mechanic, a dynamic in the world where you have to interact with it and and help yourself, but you can't do
Mm-hmm.
it from the world map, and it's not that simple.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that. I feel like that's a better approach to that, and I also imagine that it won't be too much of an inconvenience, and these guys will probably be for the most part very avoidable. They're not like the mercenaries in Odyssey, where they'll just like 10 of them will show up at once. You
Yeah.
know,
I
it'll
do
probably even be rare.
Yeah, I do think like that the at least what it made it sound at the end of the demo is like maybe one or two of them will like start to like try to find you on the map and will move away from their location. I don't think it'll be this like overwhelming thing where you just have five random mercenaries who are just chasing you with like lynxes attached to them.
No,
And you're just
that would be something.
that mercenary system of the mechanic of the mercenary system I didn't mind in the sense that like you kind of the idea that you were becoming a better mercenary than other mercenaries and maybe you got some rewards or things out of that, but in like actual functionality the fact that there was just always, unless you paid it off, like five people just like interrupting you in the middle of like a story or doing something
Yeah.
else was a little like unimmersive. Um,
It was more than that. It was just a pain in the ass. It
yeah,
was just there to hurt. It was just there to be like, we're here to stay,
it would
and
have
they're
been
all
cool.
yeah. It would have been cool had the system felt like it was more engaged with the world as opposed to being a part of just
Mm,
something that happens that you can fix in the map. It just feels like it was, and then if it didn't try to overwhelm you so much as just have them sometimes show up, but sometimes not.
mm-hmm.
But there were just so many in Odyssey that they'll be all over the place. And
I,
I found it really weird with the mercenary system of what rank mercenary are you? Well, the way to rank up as a mercenary is to kill other mercenaries. Like,
mm-hmm.
so why is there a ranked mercenary system if the only mercenary that I want to have in the entirety of Greece is me? There can only be one Mystios. I find that to be such an odd system, you know?
That is true. I would have if there was like some sort of ranking system or growing, like I would have preferred if it was like contract based or tied into the arena somehow or something where like
Yeah.
you could go to the arena and fight harder and harder mercenaries if you wanted to increase in that area, but it wasn't like a
Yeah.
thing that invaded your entire gameplay.
I think you can, to be fair and honestly, I think you can fight mercenaries in the arena.
There is one. There's always one mercenary in your mercenary queue that you could take to, but I guess I meant like all mercenaries were kind of would challenge you, and you could go to the arena, and as you beat them, you got stronger and better in the arena or something like that. If
Yeah, I
that
know what you
was
mean.
like, yeah, if you wanted to kind of have that mercenary progression system. Um, which is what they were going for and kind of did. Whew,
Yeah,
man.
I quite like the idea of the zealot system, because then they're tied in with the Order of Ancients as well, and so when they're nearby, you might think, you know what, I'll take the fight to you before you find me, and I don't think you can stealth attack them for whatever reason.
Really?
I
I
don't
thought
think
they
you can
said
stealth.
every boss was assassinatable, or did I mishear that sometime? There's been so much content being put out there.
I don't know if they count as a boss, but I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
when I think I saw a video of somebody trying to sneak up on one, but there was no option. Sometimes the game just won't give you the option to assassinate. I've noticed that. And I thought, oh, okay, I can't, or critical damage or anything like that. And I thought, okay, well, surely I can stab you in the neck because I have a hidden blade and you have a neck. Like, surely that should be possible. But I don't know. I mean, I hope it's possible.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe that's just how it was in the build, and maybe they'll sort it out for the base.
Yeah.
Well, for the launch of the game, it's gone gold now. But make no mistake, that doesn't mean they're done working on it by a long stretch. They've got loads of updates to bring yet. And also, that doesn't mean they can't release a day one patch and stuff like that. And they can still work on it. They've just got... All that gone gold means is that they're, I guess, printing the copies, right?
Yeah, like ready to let us start actually consuming the game. And if you remember,
Yeah.
all these games, there's been updates weeks or months after. And even in the post-launch, I mean, they were focusing mainly on, like, the free content. But if you remember... Odyssey, they were pretty good at updating and adding new things and kind of keeping the game alive, whether you enjoyed it or not. They were like, they added, everyone wanted a transmog system, so they added that in, and then everyone wanted more levels, so they gave them more levels, and they made us grind to 99 again.
Grind to 99. Or you could just use the story creator mode and use one of those XP boost quests.
Yeah.
Before Ubisoft stepped in to shut that down for to protect the integrity of the quest.
Yeah,
which is a very rich thing. Which is a very rich thing to say when you're selling an XP boost in a single player game, isn't it? That entire debacle was very fun.
That was
it
made me realize, I was going to mention this earlier when you were talking about Odyssey's stories and how they kind of felt like very similar, like fetch quests. I wonder if like they had the story creator in mind very early on, and so they were trying to like design all the mechanics for what makes a quest something and try to turn those into self-contained actions that could then be conveyed to the story creator mode. And so the fact that there is no story creator mode for Valhalla, I think, is a good sign for the fact that each story will kind of have its own, hopefully its own feeling to it.
Story creator mode was the best part of Odyssey because it was incredible. See, what happened was loads of my viewers created quests about me, and every single time I'd be the guy in the cow mask, I'd be the guy with the bull mask on, and I'd be killing people for whatever reason, and it was really funny.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, this is something I could enjoy. And
for
Lord Fizhy strikes again.
Yeah, I remember you do that. We did that with our community too, and that was like a fun like community thing to be able to like off a
oh
bit.
God, it was good fun, but it did lose that magic quite quickly when you realised everything you do in another quest is the same as before. And also, it did something. One guy did something, and this was the straw to break the camel's back. They did a quest where every objective would be thousands and thousands of meters away, far away from any fast travel point. And I thought, oh God, why? And it would just be again and again and again to the point where go here, do this, go here, do this. And I thought, this is the most exaggerated Odyssey thing you could do. Like, this is so Odyssey, and I found it amazing. It was just funny.
One of my moderators took it upon himself to make constant quests like that, but then he would trick me and say, I swear I didn't make you do a long fetch quest this time, I promise, just do it. And then I'd get in it, and it'd be 10,000 meters away. I'm like, Kevin, God damn it. Like, don't do this to me.
Come on, Kev, what's this about, man? Like, come on, Kev. Sort it out, son. This is poor form. I'm not happy about this.
I feel bad for the folks who put like a lot of effort into like their story creator modes, because it felt like very quickly the meme stories kind of superseded any sort of...
They took over for sure. The meme stories were... I mean, it's the kind of game where if you try to be too serious, it doesn't really account for it. But it accounts for ridiculous just fine. I remember making a quest titled Uncle Ben's Rice, in which there is a man laying on the ground, and he's like, "Find my rice," or "Give me my rice," and then Cassandra goes, "No," and then and then the guy on the floor goes, "Die," and then you just kill him, and the quest ends. And that was my experience with story creator mode. That got the whole 2 stars. People loved it so much that they gave it 2 stars.
That's pretty good.
Apparently it was emotional and all that stuff.
The one story mode that I found actually interesting, it had nothing to do with the story. One of our people in the community, Hollowed, he made a quest which was you had to escort a character through like the biggest bandit camp, but they couldn't die. And so like it was actually extremely hard to complete. Like you had to like have them next to you the whole time while fighting, like off like hundreds of people, bandits. But at the same time, the moment he dies, like the quest fails and you have to start over again. And that was one where like I was like, that's actually pretty, like that's a pretty clever use of those mechanics.
It's a good way to throw in a challenge.
Yeah.
Did you ever succeed?
I did. He gave me a pretty hard challenge, and I think the way it ended is it was pretty cheesed. For some reason, he got stuck next to a horse, and so he was in a very well protected spot, and so I was able to finish it pretty quickly.
And then you just moved the horse.
Yeah, and then you move the horse out of the way, and then you finish the quest. But
That's
terms
really
of
cool,
the combat, like that was a pretty fun quest, but not too many good solid stories that came out of this story mode.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there were a few, but they just didn't get noticed, and they got lost under the ones that were just funny. The ones that were just there for comic relief to make you laugh, because why not?
Or the ones that I'll say, like, there was one that I think I shared with you on one of your live streams that I think you posted a video about, like, kill all of Sparta. I don't know if you remember that.
Kill all of Sparta. Yeah, I remember that. That was something else.
That was done by...
kill Sparta or something?
Yeah, like, kill Sparta, and then, like, no, Brasidas. It came across like it was likely put together by someone who is under the age of, like, 10, potentially. And if they weren't, I'm sorry. But that's, like...
That's incredible.
And so,
it's almost genius, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost genius that somebody made Kill Sparta. And it's like Brasidas Kill Sparta. And then you just get about killing all of Sparta. I can't remember much of the quest, but it just says kill this character, kill that character, doesn't it?
Well, and it's like misspelled and it's very basic. Like you start off in Kefalonia and it's like Sparta is here. And you're like, okay, I kill all of Sparta. And then it says kill all of Sparta as the objective. And there's like 3 Spartan soldiers, and then like you kill them, and it's like the Adrestia was blown up, and you're like, oh no. It's just
let me see if I can find that one, because I know I did a video on it. I did a video called Story Creator Mode is Beautiful, in which that got more views than it did. Killing all of Sparta. Here we go. I found it. I made a video on it dedicated to killing all of Sparta. 30,000 people tuned in to watch this one video. It's incredible, isn't it? How the story creator mode for that game basically created an absolute madness of just people creating pure drivel. And this is a great example of it, where it's just Sparta. It starts with Sparta in Kefalonia. That's the name of it, and it's dramatic action adventure. And then it starts. You have to go to Kefalonia. And you meet, I don't know who it was, but let me find it. I
think it was the cow mask guy. He's like,
here it is. You find the cow mask guy laying on the ground. His name is Leandros. It says help Sparta is attacking. And it's like, Malaka, I kill those Spartane, and no, fuck you. And Malaka, I kill those Spartane. I love that. That's great.
I
It's
need
like,
to
Malaka,
share
I
the
kill those
link in the
Spartane.
chats for everyone. Kill
And
all of
and then you've got
Sparta.
then the question is just called Malaka, and then and then the objective is kill Brasidas.
Sparta in Kefir.
And he's 200 meters away in town for no reason. He's just chilling there. There's loads of characters laying about. You can start killing him and break the quest if you wanted to, but he's just on this island, and you just walk up to him and just kill him, which is pretty funny, I think. I want to know what happens next when you do. Then it says Barnabas. That's the name of the objective, Barnabas. So you walk up to Barnabas, and I think you speak to him, and then Barnabas says something incredible. Let me find it.
No, yeah,
This
he
quest is
says
something
the
else.
Adrestia sunk while the Adrestia is behind him.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it, but the moment it's a madness. Where is the boat? Yeah, there just is a shipwreck now. You can swim, Malaka, and that's it. And the address is just there. It's just fantastic. That is the best. That is the best thing to come out of story creator mode. It's a shame Valhalla won't have that, but it's also the best thing that could possibly happen.
For Valhalla, yes. Because, like
yeah.
I was mentioning, I'm pretty sure that they, in order to, like, create story creator mode, they had to, like, simplify the, like, story mechanics, and I think that's why you saw so many release this person from this cage, or go to this thing. Like, there, if you noticed, a lot of the features in story creator modes were very featured actions that you took in a lot of the quests in Odyssey. So
yeah,
it makes me think that they structured the quest, which is, I don't know, I feel like that's a very ambitious and cool idea, which is the fact that you can make stories be a little bit more puzzle piecey in the sense, but when it doesn't have when it lacks substance, I think is when you get what we got with like Odyssey in the story creator mode. And so I wonder if they got to spend like 5-6 years on a system like that, if it actually would have been like
they want if they're going to do that system, it has to be done right, and I can't say it was done right, it was just done. I feel like I found it funny when they marketed it. I think someone said, yeah, this is similar to what we used to actually make the game, so we're excited to see what you make with it. And I saw them say, this is something similar to what we used to make the game, and I went, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Everything makes sense now. And so I made a quest about Uncle Ben's rice and came away like, I just did game development. I know. I came away like, I just developed a quest, and it was terrible. But I loved developing terrible. I don't know why. I did some really messed up ones where they were just silly, and I couldn't do a serious one for the life of me. There was no point in doing a serious quest ever.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense to me. I didn't think it would matter, because in the end of the day, it's just there it exists. And it was something that you could just mess about in, and having a laugh with it was perhaps the best thing I did with the entirety of Odyssey. Is just sit there and be like, well, this is funny, but yeah, done now. And then when it was done, was this before or after the DLC? I think it was in the middle, wasn't it?
The story creator mode was between Atlantis and the First Blade, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. So yeah, no, I did that, and then I played the DLCs. I was like, well, I've exhausted the game. More importantly, I've exhausted myself, and so I just left it there.
Yeah, I feel like we're very similar, except like the thing that I just dove into was like the damage system. Like for whatever reason, my Diablo brain kicked in, and I was like, I want to see if I can hit 200 million damage.
I know. I get. Did you manage it? Please tell me.
Yes, we hit like 226 million damage in one hit. It's a pretty interesting video. It's actually been beaten by another YouTuber, T7, but
what damage did
I think he hit almost 300 million, I think, is what he got. But that was around the time where I was starting to hit 1,000 hours in Odyssey, and I was pretty burned out.
Better you than me.
Yeah, pretty
better you
out.
than me. Yeah, no, you get to a point, it's just like, yep, take over now, it's fine.
Yeah, you can.
After the DLC, I had to stop. I had to stop
Yeah.
with Odyssey. I could never touch it again because I vowed, in fact, to never touch it again because I looked at it and went, I mean, I understand that it exists and some people like it, but as an actual game, as Assassin's Creed, I have nothing but contempt for this game. I think it's funny, but I have contempt for it, serious contempt. And so I thought, you know what, I best leave it be. I best go on and get on with making content on games I enjoy. And so I did just that. And I think Valhalla, back to Valhalla now, is going to be probably by quite a fair bit better than Odyssey was, and hopefully it'll be superior to Origins. I'm hopeful. I reckon the world design will bring it up quite a fair bit. You know, I reckon it has that potential, and I look forward to playing it. I'm very excited to. It's not far away now. It's 10th of November that it comes out, and it's currently the 23rd of October, which is pretty neat, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty right around the corner here. We'll get to really dive into it. Yeah, man. This is I know that we like make content for videos and stuff, but I've definitely like you mentioned, whenever I try to focus on content for a video game, it's always about like a video game that like I really enjoy, and like getting that demo access, I actually found myself like just playing the game, and then I realized I'm like, oh wait, I think I should be making videos about this, so I should try to experience other stuff if I want to showcase those. But I honestly am getting pretty excited about this video game, like from a personal point. Not just for, like,
same.
Videos.
This is the first time Ubisoft has come to me and been like, "Do you want to record some footage for it in like a remote capture session or anything like that?" Because that's never happened before.
Oh, really?
So this is the first time I got some form of access to the game prior to launch. I mean, I've been given review codes in the past and given a little bit of early access at launch, but this is the first time where I've been able to see it as a work in progress and play it as a work in progress and experience it as a game that isn't out yet and isn't in its final form or anything like that. It's just there to experience. And I was really, I sort of felt it, I was like, oh, this is really, really, really quite fun, because I was having a good time with the game, and I was, same as you, I was just getting about doing whatever I thought I should, and then it does occur to you after a while, oh, I should maybe do something that looks good from the standard of talking about the game to an audience or showcasing the game. And so I think I got it better in the 6-hour session I attended recently, where I more or less did everything I could find. Everything I could find I went and did, and I think I had a good time experiencing all that. There were a few things that sort of conked out a bit and went, you know what, I'm not happy. Not me, but the game just went, no, I'm still a work in progress. Give me some slack. Just cut me some slack here. And then, for example, with the nuns, I'm pretty sure they bugged out and they stood around each other. So what I did was I set them on fire, and they all fell to the ground and screamed. And I cut it at just the right point and posted a video on Twitter. And people were like, "Wait, hang on! Doesn't it tell you not to kill civilians in this game?" And I'm like, "Only if they die." So it was, it was pretty good. It was rather fun. That's fun. It was rather comedy, I must say. I was quite happy to give that a go. And I mean, I did a fair bit. I think I got a good idea of what the game's going to feel like, how it's going to play. But just the same, I also feel like the game is massive. I feel like there's a lot to offer, because they've just allowed me to just access to 9 hours worth of content from the game before it's anywhere close to launching. So surely
9
this is going
to felt like a scratch, really. Like it didn't even feel like you really got the full experience.
No, it felt like I was barely chipping the surface. It felt like I did a fairly big area for sure, but within a bigger area, in a bigger area again. And I thought, oh god, so this is like 1/6 of this but maybe a quarter or maybe even half. I don't think half, maybe a third of this entire little region. And I've just got to experience that, and it took me hours and hours to do. And so I thought, yeah, why not? This is barely scratching the surface of this game. There's a lot to offer. The only thing I would worry about is where it starts to repeat. Because every game has a point where you think every game will get repetitive. Even the best, Red Dead Redemption 2, The Witcher 3, Every game gets to a point where it becomes repetitive. The trick is making that as late as possible.
Yes. That's totally
I wonder
true.
when. It get repetitive in the hours that I played. I mean, it did feel like there was a lot of similar stuff going on, and I mean, there was a bit of repetition, but it didn't feel repetitive in the sense that it bothered me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder how many hours it'll take to get to the point where I'm like, right, okay, but this is starting to blur now.
Like you've shot
20
enough
hours?
locks off doors, and you're like, okay.
Is it 30 hours? Is it 40 hours? 50 hours? How many hours will it be before it begins to feel like Groundhog Day? And with any luck, it's the highest number possible. Yeah, but you never know, do you? You never know.
No.
Fingers crossed that it's the longest.
I'm gonna reach into the chat now. People have been asking a couple questions, so because you've been going for it. So if you have any questions, guys, like for Fizhy, like throw some in the chat and we'll get out there. One of them is: there more breeds of horses like in Red Dead? Actually, I don't know if there's breeds. There's definitely skins, but there is an upgrade system to horses. Did you see that at the stables?
Yeah, you have the yes, you have a you have riding training, don't you? Where you can train you can train your riding skills to do different things. You basically pay a guy for the skill, and he gives you the skill. So it requires you to build up some funds, and then you get to improve your skill as a rider. But yeah, as far as the horses are concerned, I think there are different skins for the horses. But for the most part, I don't think there are breeds. You won't know what breed it is. You won't have like your Arabians or whatever else they had in Red Dead. There are so many. My favorite was like this golden skinned horse that I named Ronald McDonald in Red Dead. I had a great time naming. I had some great horse names in Red Dead Redemption 2. I had Megatron, Optimus Prime, Ronald McDonald. I had the lot. I had all sorts. I had Tesco Burger. He's my most recent one. That's a joke. And if you want me to explain that joke, back in 2013, there was a scandal with supermarket chain Tesco in the UK, where all of the beef, where some of the beef products were actually comprised of horse meat.
Oh my gosh!
And so I thought I'll make an elaborate 7-year-old joke in the name of a horse, and that's what we did.
That's awesome.
I
hopefully you can name your horse in Valhalla. Probably not.
I'd give it a beautiful name,
yeah.
Keith. I named a car Keith once. We bought a Skoda Felicia from like 1998 for a laugh.
Okay.
Named it Keith. It lasted a day. It was only 150 quid, and that's the money we got to scrap it, so it was fine.
That's awesome.
It was a good time. That was.
Yeah, I think I saw someone earlier ask like about some Jomsviking stuff.
Jomsviking. Oh, I don't know too much about that yet.
Did you go to the Jomsviking barracks at all?
There's a barracks?
Yeah, there's a barracks where you get to customize and add
guys
who hop onto your ship.
I did customize the guy. The barracks is the building, is it then?
Yeah, I think it's called like the Jomsvikings barracks or something like that.
The Jomsviking barrack of life.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I didn't spend too much time there as to invest any understanding to it, but I did see it and I did use that to give it a go. And I thought, oh, that was pretty cool, you know. I thought it was cool. I didn't really necessarily figure it out fully, but I'm sure I will eventually figure it out and be like, oh, that's really neat.
It seems like a visualization, right? So like it's more so like designing you could basically fill your longship up with all kinds of different looking people based off of whatever gear you've collected at the time. But like I guess the community feature for them is like which is actually going to probably reward people like us who have communities more so than anyone else. But like when you make a Jomsviking, you can publish it to, and all your fan bases or anybody can recruit your Jomsviking onto their ship, and anytime your Jomsviking makes a kill in their game, you get silver from it. So people like
I like that. I like
you and JordanDoes are gonna be millionaires in the game pretty quickly once you release your first
Jomsviking. No, that's a thing, isn't it? I would love to be able to name the Jomsviking something as well, but I think it's going to be a randomly generated name. But if it's not, you best believe that Optimus Prime is coming back with a vengeance. My guy Optimus Prime in the bits, just chilling in the Vikings doing lovely stuff.
I
I would
was-
quite enjoy.
Yeah, I was disappointed you couldn't name them too, but then I realized I'm like, okay, yeah, there's human beings playing this game. Like, if you expose a full custom name creator, like, but the
Yeah.
technology is advanced. Where
Chilling
you
with
can,
Optimus Prime.
you can cut. I think that should be allowed, but like, you
If
should
they
be
if
able
they
to.
speak and tell stories on the ship, it's just Optimus Prime speaking. Optimus Prime telling a story of when he and Eivor raided some random place.
That's awesome.
Oh god, it would be great if there was some form of naming system and you got to choose which you recruited. Like no, I think you do get to choose so that there's no invasion. So, but just the same, I think if that's the case, then there's no reason why there couldn't be an Optimus Prime Viking. Darby McDevitt, if you're watching this, let me know.
We'll cut the
If we
clip
can
out.
name our Jomsviking Optimus Prime or Megatron, please.
Yes.
I'd love to know for it is important. It's important to my
I need
soul.
to remake Cassandra though, and put her on my long ship. That's probably.
Can you get a 2-piece suit for your Jomsviking?
I asked Darby. I sent him. I don't know if you saw. I tweeted at him. I made a good Photoshop. I'll send it to you on Discord here. I photoshopped Cassandra, doing a tie on Eivor, and I asked Darby if Cassandra would be in the game, and I think he may have blocked me after that. But
You what?
he may have blocked me after that. But I don't
Did he?
know. No, I don't know. I don't think they tell you if you get blocked, but.
Well, I mean, if you check his Twitter, it will tell you pretty quickly.
Oh, or at least muted, I think, is what I was looking for.
Maybe he did. Let's have a look. Oh God! He didn't respond, but there was a quote to it. But nothing to see here yet. Probably because that person either has me blocked for whatever reason. There are many valid ones, or I have them blocked. I don't know. That is pretty funny. That is quite something. Yeah, no, I quite like that. I think that's pretty fun, especially with the staff on Cassandra's back.
Yeah, because if she doesn't
Personal
have
touch.
it, she dies. You know. She
Yeah,
has to
exactly. She needs
have
the
it
staff.
attached.
She dies without it. She must have it. It's just the rule. I think that's really quite funny that the body that you tweeted that at Derby. This is one of the things where it's like, I don't care. This is a genuine question. Please answer me, and then you don't get anything back. That's how you know that they've seen it and they've gone, oh, not again.
No, please don't. I can tell it's a little no nonsense with him sometimes. Hopefully he understood as kind of making a little bit of a joke. I don't expect Cassandra to show up in a.
I always thought that Darby had a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
He likes to try. He likes to mess with people, so I don't think he minds.
Yeah.
He does like to troll people a little bit.
Maybe it's he doesn't want to be seen as like laughing at a joke at Odyssey's expense, which was made by coworkers of his.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would be particularly well received.
Yeah.
But I still think it'll be pretty funny, just the same. But then again, I'm not in this position. I can't tell you what may or may not be a bit mad. But you never know.
Jafar asked a question.
Jafar,
Where is Arm Viking?
Army Viking. Where is Army Viking?
I think
I-
they're on your longship. I'm assuming that we're having
The Joms Viking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Joms Vikings, you get them. I'm gonna try to guess due to the translations here what you're reaching at. You get your Joms Vikings in your settlement, in the barracks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that seems about right. You get something like that, and I suppose you get to put them on your longship or into other people's games, and then you get to use them to essentially earn some in-game money quicker, and that's cool. So you'll just be there making tons of Joms Vikings or something.
Yeah. We're gonna
Use these, man.
Do you watch why am I forgetting his name? I love his content. The explicit the British guy who like does bugs, and he gets it's always about trying to get the most amount of gold out of a game. He's pretty popular. Why am I can't believe I'm like forgetting his name entirely.
I can't tell you. I don't think I watch anybody like that, but you never know.
Explicitly Brit or something like that. Basically, he finds exploits in games. It's all about like exploits.
That's really quite awesome. I like a good exploit in a game.
I
always enjoy when
the Spiffing Brit. That's his name.
Let me have a look. Let me have a look now. The Spiffing Brit. Oh.
Yeah.
No, I've never seen this guy before. Wow.
Yeah. He basically just hops into any game and exploits it, and so maybe we can reach out to him and see if he can exploit the Jomsviking silver. And
yeah, I reckon. The guy knows exactly what he's doing. If he can figure it out, he'll do it before we can say cheese. Oh God, what a guy! Yeah, this is content. This is what I like. I like a good video breaking a game. You know, like I like to sometimes get into a game and just turn it into utter chaos myself. It is actually what I do sometimes. I just fire up a game and turn it into absolute shenanigans, end to end. It's pretty amazing. I'm not very good at it, but I still do it. I guess that's just what I do, you know. I just go and make loads of absolute bad life choices. But you know how it goes.
Jafar was able to articulate his question way better. Can you lead an army and attack by land, or must you attack from a bow? So there's there's assaults, which is assaults are an independent attack, but your Jomsvikings or your longship they stick close to the river, so you can attack anything along the river and they'll help you, but they won't go inland with you. Very far.
There we go. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, no, I didn't realize that there was a distinction, but yeah. For the most part, it's along the river. That's where the raids sort of happen, and you sort of do. You need to be on the long ship. You need to point it towards the location, and then you can raid from there. Or I don't know about if you're just attacking a place, what happens. I didn't try it, but I did all the raids from the ship, basically. But I don't know. There's probably some form of variety overlap.
There was a camp that I hit in one of mine where I kind of felt bad. It looked like hunters just like kind of posting up next to the river for the night, and I decided to hop off with my Jomsvikings and steal all their food and kill them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's definitely going to be, the rating is going to be interesting to think about. There's also the whole settlement stuff. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and slow the stream down here, Fizhy, in about 10-15 minutes, but the settlement was like an interesting thing. Like, of all the different homesteads that we've had in Assassin's Creed, I feel like this one might be one of the best. I did like, what was it? Was it Brotherhood? It wasn't Brotherhood, was it? Yeah, that had the homestead, right?
The homestead was 3.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, in comparison from what you experienced in other, like, I'm not comparing it to other building based games, but like in terms of the Assassin's Creed, did you get any sort of in your short period of time an affiliation or attraction to the settlement? Or
the settlement I really liked. I thought the settlement was pretty good. You got the Hidden Ones Bureau. You've got all sorts going on. You get to build it up, and when you go away and come back, other characters may show up. Other things may happen, and once you've built a structure, you can that character can then apply a trade, and you can trade with this character, and that character may also give you quests. Apparently, may also send you on things, which means that the settlement becomes a hub area for setting off into the world to do stuff, as well as you use this as well to mark where you're going next, while you're going there. You know, to do bits in this region or that region. So it's really good for plotting. It also has its own stories to tell, its own disputes that Eivor may have to get involved and resolve. and also you build it, but sometimes it will build itself. You'll come back, maybe the architecture's improved, maybe there's something else going on, maybe a new character has shown up and they need your help.
Yeah.
To set up shop.
I like the fact that, like, for example, like, it seems like you get attached, like the father and the son who own the fishing hunting hut. Like, you get kind of attached a little bit, or like the fact that I know the blacksmith's name now, like Gunner. Like, oh, I'm gonna go back to Gunner and upgrade my gear.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's like
there you go.
The blacksmith kind of has a little bit more intention to it. I did have a prediction that at some point in the story that I think this settlement will either be like raided or burned down or something, and you won't.
Yeah, no, I think it can be attacked. Yes.
Yeah, and so like
that is true.
You'll feel upset. Like, where's Gunner? Or, like, where's the kid? Like, you'll feel like
you'll be looking around. Maybe some characters will be able to die. Maybe some will require your help to save them in the moment, and you'll want to, because you'll run up to them and basically be like, right, I'm saving your life. You know what I mean? And then that happens. It's all that stuff. I think it's really could be quite a neatly done system if it works. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone. I'm ordering myself some food.
Oh, no
it could be a neatly done system, provided it all works and flows into itself, but doesn't overstep and try to do stuff that inconveniences you too much long term. I reckon it could be quite a juicy outcome, really.
Yeah.
Of combination of downtime and raids and quests.
Did you like the implementation of the different other? What was the? I can't believe I'm fading on this right now, so I'm gonna need your help. What was it? Assassin's Creed Revelations or 2, where you had that villa that you kind of.
Altorre Villa was 2.
2?
Yeah, 2.
Like, so, and then in Black Flag, you also kind of had like your home area. Do you think, it seems to me like Valhalla's is like the most intense of all of them, to be honest?
It could be the most intense. Yeah. If it can get attacked on a regular basis, it can be. It may just be the most intense. I think that 2's worked because it was a hub area where you were safe, where you could take in the atmosphere of it, upgrade places, and use that to then generate income, collect some money, and then go out into the world, making it a little bit easier for yourself, and also see some characters in a place where they're a constant, and you don't have to worry about guards or anything like that. That's what it was in the Auditore Villa. The homestead, again, was pretty similar, except you could run into some form of enemy in certain missions there, and there was always something going on. There were loads of characters you could come and get to know. The homestead in Assassin's Creed 3, dare I say, was the best part of 3, because of all these characters at the homestead, and you built this community. You helped build this community. You help these people live, and you get to see their lives, and you get to see a bit of development in Connor there. Where you get to see just Connor being a character, rather than developing necessarily, and it's just a little bit nicer to watch. It's really nice. It's quite a nice experience. I feel like when it comes to this, maybe this is going to be that balance of it being a hub world. Maybe sometimes it'll be attacked. Maybe it'll have some quests that you can do. Some will be away from it. Some will be at it. You'll be able to plot where you're going next. You'll be able to upgrade it. It'll sometimes upgrade itself. It'll sustain itself alongside you sustaining it. And it seems like player CPU harmony. So you've got the computer doing stuff, and they've got the player basically just harmonizing to create this town.
Incentivize parties. The Longhouse, you can throw a feast and you get a feast boost.
Morale, which has a time boost. Yeah.
I don't know how much that'll actually impact the game mechanics at the end of the day, but that'll be pretty fun to do.
I'd imagine it'll be pretty minor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There'll be an improvement, but will it matter in the end of the day is the question, and I don't know. I'd probably say not too heavily. No. Right, let's sort this out here and out there. There we go, sorted. Right. So yeah, I think the settlement is going to be very, very useful.
A fun thing to return to. Well, I'm gonna wind the stream down here, Fishy. Thanks so much for showing up. Usually, when I've been trying to invite more people to like come on and just casually talk, but you've been my favorite so far. I'll be honest. You stuck around.
I've really enjoyed it.
For so long. I've always
I know
been a
it's been a
big
great
fan.
time.
So for anyone who's watching either in the stream or in the clips that'll come out of it, you should subscribe to him. He's so close to 250,000. You just
It's gonna be mental.
maybe it'll happen at launch, and you'll do like a
Maybe
big...
it'll happen at launch, and then I'll feel like a god. I feel like a Viking. Give me that hashtag like a Viking feeling.
Hashtag
no,
like
it's been
a
an
Viking.
it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you,
Yeah.
and talking about Assassin's Creed and answering some questions, and having a good old time. It's been a good chat, and I'm always happy for a good chat. So if you ever need me to come on and talk again, then I'm happy to. And also maybe one day at some point we can work out some form of like video or something, or we do some work on that front, and then we could have a really good time. So my door's always open to you, man. You're a good chat,
Awesome.
and you're Assassin's Creed, and that's awesome. And
it's not
and the
just,
community is very lucky to have you. So
appreciate it. I definitely am thinking, I'm just kind of stringing it together, but like it's not necessarily a podcast, but more so like I wanted to do this thing called like couch co-op, where we find like video games that like I can play together with other content creators. And even if it's just small little games, and then like have conversations like this while playing like just some other game.
That sounds like a really good idea.
It might be.
I like that idea. I like that idea. Give me a shout if you ever want me on.
Definitely.
Ghost of Tsushima Legends is an idea for that. There you go.
Oh yeah, that is actually a good idea.
Yeah, someone in the chat just said it. The legendary shadow. Credit goes to them, not me.
Interesting. Thank you, Legendary Shadow.
It's a fascinating idea. So it has been wonderful speaking. Shall I leave you to make your outro, or do you want me to hang around while you do it?
If you're more than welcome to stay all the way to the very end, because I know someone cheered a bit in here. I didn't want the alerts to kind of interrupt us at all, so I'm gonna just thank everybody. I got a couple follows from Dead End. I remember you, Dead End. Thanks so much, man. Suzaken59, thank you for the follow again. Viking Baggins. Interesting. What do you think about Viking Baggins as a name?
That's a bit of a small Viking, don't you think? With big feet, going on an adventure. I'm going on a hashtag like an adventure. Oh God.
This hashtag Leica is gonna stick around for quite a while.
I like hashtag Leica because hashtag like a crackhead. That could be something. Hashtag like a tax dodger. Hashtag like a serial killer.
Hashtag like
hashtag
a Greek. Get it. My favorite out of all of it was like getting cucked and saying hashtag like a Greek. Odyssey. Hashtag
like a HP 8210 Office Jet Pro. Oh God, the possibilities are endless. Let's get that going everywhere, everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone tweet at me or Jordan. Hashtag like a something with a random picture. I want someone to put hashtag like a Medici with just Lorenzo de Medici from Assassin's Creed 2. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But there you go. It's rather incredible.
I got a follow from an interesting person too called Fizhy E. Interesting.
Yeah, that was me. You're welcome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much.
That's my Twitch account.
Fresh Subvet. Thank you guys. And then Michael D, thank you for the 100 bits. And Boop Stiletto Vixen, thank you for the 1,000 bits. I appreciate. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, especially thanks to Fishy. And I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here, everybody. So appreciate you all. I'll see you guys next Friday, and go check out Fishy. He's pretty funny sometimes.
I try my best. I'm trying, okay?
See you, everybody.
Yeah, bye-bye.